Hey, everybody. Welcome to Holding Priority Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to go over our full month of August tournaments. We entered three, and it was pretty cool to see all of the different events each in each city. And I think we should go over and kind of explain what we learned from the events, what we could have done better, what we did do well on, so that you guys know how to prepare for your next tournament.
Yep, it was a busy month, guys. Busy month.
Yeah, we had a dry spell for like a month where there were no tournaments, and then all of a sudden there were a lot of tournaments, and each in a different city, which was really cool to travel and see all that stuff. Before we get into our first one, let's go to the shuffle up. So we've seen a lot of views in Europe, Australia, Japan, South Korea. It's been really cool to see all of the different places that you guys are listening to the podcasts. Really, thank you for checking us out, subscribing. We've had a couple more 5-star reviews on Apple Podcast and Spotify. If you guys are listening and you enjoy the podcast, or if you've listened to another episode and this is your second one, please go and review us wherever you listen. It helps a lot, and getting that feedback really helps the longevity of the podcast.
And we don't get enough comments. I
Yeah,
think more comments gives us more to interact with you guys, and we'll shout you out here as well.
yeah.
So,
We did get a couple of comments on our YouTube video. Um, so Patrick Owens on YouTube was reminding us that green does have Dosun of the Falling Leaf and City of Solitude. So green does have like semi-silences, well, silences that they can put down. So it's not purely just a white mechanic. Those are scary though, because when you put them down and you're ready to win, if somebody does anything to stop you, you are done. Like
yeah, for sure.
you've set up the next person to win, so those are scary. And then in our commander deck review on Bloomborough, GV1 says Guardian Project with Bellow is solid, can definitely pack a punch, especially with Warp Surge. That's cool combo. Thank you for putting that in.
Yeah, it's always nice to see a combo we didn't necessarily think about at the time, and it comes out into play.
Yeah, I mean,
Thanks.
I love spicy decks. I pretty much play off meta anytime I can. So whenever I see those new combos, it'll start my wheels, and I'm just kind of like, what if I could make a deck around this? Or like, it's also been cool just because as we've been playing people locally, we've seen a lot of those cards that we reviewed pop up. Like we've seen a ton of Into the Floodmaw, and people are like, "Yeah, this card's great." Or the Dewdrop Cure, I think the white common that we had in our Bloomborough. Saw that in a Winota deck where they were like, "Yeah, this is a great card. Like it brings back my stacks pieces," and it's always cool to see like very accessible cards that are currently in the newest set packs that people are like, yeah, I put this in my CEDH deck. Like this is a 15-cent card, and I, am able to run this and upgrade my deck because of it. So
I actually, just a tidbit real quick. I actually use Flood Maw instead of Cyclonic,
mhm.
just due to the pips and the adnas. Um, Doesn't sound like much, but it does about the same thing. It doesn't really hurt the deck. I like it a lot. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I've seen that one the most, and it was funny because I opened up an entire booster box and I didn't get one, and then we met somebody that was just at our local game store and they had 4 of them, and I was like, "Can I please trade for one?"
Yeah, I think I traded a rare
Yeah, I did
leftover.
too. They were like, "How much is it?" I was like, "It's 35 cents," but I want it bad enough that you can just pick any of my bulk rares and like whatever makes you happy, take it. And they were just like, "Oh man, I want this one, but it's like $3." I was like, "Have it."
Done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's
Same. I
like
think he
that.
got us.
Yeah,
Well, not really got us because we obviously wanted the card, but definitely a win in his favor.
yeah. I like it when everybody walks away happy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for interacting with us. Just listening. If you've put any comments or any reviews, we see them. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
For sure.
Uh, So let's get into our first event. So our first event was a event in Houston at Dragon's Lair, 40 entry full proxy event. And by full proxy, I mean the entire deck could be proxy, and they were cool with people printing out the cards and then putting them on the back of basic lands.
Um, Not ideally how I really like to play, but I get opening it up for others to come in and have fun as well. So it's bittersweet, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, the more people we have to play, the better the event is. The more rounds we get to play in the event. So there was definitely a couple tables that I went to, and somebody just the night before, I guess their friend was like, "Hey, I'm entering. Like, will you come with me?" And the night before, they literally printed out a 100 card deck, got 100 basic lands, and slapped it on, and their performance at the table was so so. But I mean,
I think
it
I had
was
one or two of those as
yeah,
well.
it was one of those things where I was just like, oh, you're probably not going to have a bunch of fun at this event going against people that have maybe played their current deck every weekend for a year. But I don't think anybody just got there and they were like, I made a mistake. So,
No, I think everybody had fun no matter what you were really doing. I will say that it was like almost a, I don't want to say rags to riches, but it was clearly that type of feel where you had some person with a printed out deck, and then I believe one of the Mox Masters guys came in and
yeah, it was cool. I was very much like, oh, this is a swanky event.
yeah, it was, and when you play at that level, clearly it separates pretty quickly.
Hmm.
Um, so uh, based on your win rate and such, you could be stuck in some of that lower pod things, which isn't always a bad thing. But
Spoiler alert: I was there all three. Like, so what? I'm gonna ask at the beginning of every event, but the answer is probably gonna be the same for you. What deck were you running at Dragon's Lair?
oh yeah, for me, I was running Blue Farm.
All right, I was running a Tali. So
I will say that the version of Blue Farm I came in with changed after this event because I was more of a mid range, and it by far was a faster man's game. This one, or faster by far.
you were running the Japanese.
A little bit. It was a version of it. I had to. I maneuvered some of my own personal flavor in it, but I did base it off of that. Yeah.
Yeah, we had recently been looking at some of the Japanese events, and they do a different rating where they do like elo, and basically you kind of like vampire off 10% of the points whenever you win. So like if everybody has 100 points, the person that wins, they take 10 points from each person. So the person that wins has 130 points, and then everybody that lost has 90 points
Mm.
basically. And it's not like that, but it's kind of a similar idea. So you see different decks, and sometimes you see spicier decks, and we had seen a couple of tournaments like that, and made some shifts. I think they didn't work as well in our current like Swiss model. Uh, but it was really cool to try them out and kind of understand like, oh, okay,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was the cards weren't bad. It was just different, and one of them being like a Jessica's Will and a Rain of Filth type of thing. So it was fun. It was just different.
yeah. And this event was 5 rounds with a cut to top 10. And top 10 sounds kind of weird, but basically, if you were first or second, you got guaranteed seating into top four. And then the other eight were fighting for the third and fourth spot, which was an interesting way to do it. I don't think we've ever seen that before.
I think this was a change to top deck
Hmm.
during our desert time where we didn't have any tournaments.
Yeah.
Um, I will say that whereas it would have benefited me to go into top 16 and then fight for it out, I did enjoy the fact that one of the big problems we've had at multiple tournaments prior was the draw mechanic, where people would just be like, let's just draw this one. There's no way the other people can get in.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah, it's like I got my 2 wins. Let's just can we draw? Oh, you actually need to play. I guess we can play. Like this one was no every round matters. Like
Yeah, and whereas I did, spoiler, get into the top 16, I didn't get into the top 10, which
so you're
kind of kicked me
eliminated.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But the game was cleaner. There was by far less draws.
I do like the fact that if you really just kicked butt the entire time, you just were guaranteed in the top four. I've seen some events where someone literally won every round that they were in, got to top 16, and people were like, this dude's scary. Can we all agree that like we need to watch him? And then they'd be like, yeah. And then that person would lose their top 16. And it's like, I get it. But at the same time, like, ooh, all that work to get there and then for everybody just kind of turn on you and like as a group eat you. Like,
Yeah, I believe one of the guys we knew at a tournament that we just went to was won every single game, all 5
mm-hmm.
rounds.
Yeah.
Got to the end and it was like it has its positives for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, I do like getting it, just looking at it and going like, if I get in top 16, I get to play. Like I get to say I placed, and I mean, I didn't personally feel the experience, but getting top 16 and not being able to attempt top four would kind of hurt my feelings. But
Yeah, he did well the whole tournament though, honestly.
yeah, let's get into round one. So I was playing Atali this event, and I ended up going against me on Atali seat one. Seat two was Thrasios Val Smasher. Seat three was a deck that I had seen casual before. I'd never seen in CDH. Ellis Ilcor, Sadistic Pilgrim. It's more of a like everything that comes in, they get a life. Everything that dies, they lose. And then Atraxa on seat four. Um, Clearly, Atali on seat one is very intimidating. People were pretty scared. uh, so I had pushed with Atali pretty early, like as you do. And I kind of noticed that people were to the point where they were scared of just me and Atraxa. Because Atraxa being seat four was really pushing and politicking and trying to push a lot of the scaredness to me. But there was a time where Atraxa was like, Atali's scary. You guys need to blow all of your counters on him. And I was like, we literally just saw you ETB Atraxa and get Displacer Kitten and Teferi. So like that's not gonna work. And he
Mm.
was just like, all right, fair enough. Um, the Sadistic Pilgrim player, he put every single silence made in his deck. And it was interesting because Atraxa was like going off and he silenced Atraxa, and then Atraxa was set up and passed. And I kind of just set up a Tali, didn't get a Tali, but I was clearly going to get him next turn. And then on his end step, I was like, hey, you used a silence on Atraxa. I'll give it back to you. You get to draw it. Or no, on his upkeep. I gave him back. So he drew his silence again. And it was funny because Atraxa was going off, and I was like, can you use that silence? And he was just like, nah. And then Atraxa got Food Chain and then didn't have any more mana and passed. And I was just like, we're really lucky to have had another turn. Let me play Atali. And like, I have mostly nothing on board because everybody was just like, don't let him do anything. He's Atali seat one. Thrasios Vile Smasher was set up. Like, both Thrasios, Vile Smasher, and Atraxa were so set up that it was just like they just need that one card to win with a lot of counter backup, you know? And then I put Atali on the stack, and then the Sadistic Pilgrim guy, I gave him a silence, and he used the silence I gave him on me, so I couldn't cast any of the cards with Atali. And I was like, as Atali was coming out and he was thinking about it, I was like, dude, we are so behind. These other two people are so far ahead. We need a fighting chance, you know. Please do not use this silence on me. Like, I'm not gonna win right now off a single Atali trigger.
Yeah.
And I mean, it can happen, but I mean the realistically, a single Atali trigger with as many blue decks that were at the table, I was probably going to get a couple counters, and I just wanted those counters to go away so that they couldn't actually like protect their wins. And I was just like, the silence I gave you, you used on me, that hurts, man. Like, that hurts my feelings. And of course, we ended up losing to Atraxa. It was pretty much just Thrasios, Vile, Smasher, and Atraxa staring each other down, and it was whoever drew their card first to combo off one. And Atraxa was flickering and ETBing that it was just clear they were going to get it. So I lost that round.
Mm. My round one was a lot different, it sounds. Like honestly, I was seat one, which I guess we both seat one and one there. Which I'm on Blue Farm, and then the second player was on Timna Malcolm, third player was on Sisse, and then fourth player was on Blue Farm. Um, it got into a slugfest pretty quick. All of the players that I was playing at were or playing with were pretty experienced. This was by far the first round I had was the most CEDH game I played the entire time, which
That's cool. Yeah.
it could have been a final game. But the big takeaways I had from it was I got out an early Polywall Prodigy, and he did work the entire time. Like I probably drew 15 cards easy, and ultimately it ended up being my downfall, at least in that game. But what ended up happening is it got into a slog where we were each holding each other back, which is scary because that's where Sisse thrives.
Mm-hmm.
And he the Sisse player just couldn't get the mana generation to start Sisseing. But I seen an opportunity. There was a big combo or a big counter war between Blue Farm and Timna Malcolm, and I honestly just tried to shoot out Thassa Consultation, and when I did, Sisse hit me with a Enlightened Tutor, which forced me to draw.
Yeah, because Polywog's not a May. It's you're drawing. Yeah.
Lesson learned. So I lost that round. I think in the end of it, Sisse, no, Sisse didn't win. I think it was Blue Farm that got it because he uh, uh, Underworld breached. Sisse just didn't have the mana to do what it needed to do.
Yeah.
But I was put out first just because of the consultation draw. But that was pretty much my round one. It was if I'm gonna go for a Thassa line, and to all you guys that are or guys and girls that are playing, if you're running Polywog, silence your turn first.
Yeah. I mean, too, like there are times where you see your window and you're like, this is not ideal, but if I pass, I'm definitely gonna lose, so I might as well try. I did forget to say in my round one, we ate a really early wheel, so a lot of us were just like, all right, this our hands are what they are. Let's make the best of them. Which what for me was the theme of the entire day.
Mm.
uh, so on to round two. Um, so again, we got wheeled literally turn one. I was really sad. I should go over. I should go over the people. I'm already just like, guys, this was traumatic, and I'm going to talk about it.
I shed a few tears.
Yeah. So round two was Elsha of the Infinite, Rogsai, and the guy started out saying like, "Hey, I'm pretty new with Rogsai. Go easy on me," which I was like, "No, but
You don't get that choice.
yeah." And then we had I put the name down at Rona Herald. It was the March of the Machine blue black flip commander that basically with an untap she's kind of like the cowboy, the red blue, is it cowboy Stella Lee that just tap and tap and tap and tap. That was another deck that was kind of just like clearly half the cards were printed, which I mean, cool. He did pretty good. He stopped me from winning. So, uh, and then me seat four on Atali, which usually seat four, I'm just like, if I'm gonna lose, I'm just gonna go for it. So we were playing Elsha seat one, got to do their turn one, set out everything. I looked at my hand and I had a land, Lion's Eye Diamond, and Jewel Lotus. So I had turn one Atali if I pitched my entire hand. And then Rogsai goes and wheels us. And I'm just like, I had the dream, seat four, turn one Atali. And I was just like, I try to keep like a poker face usually whenever I get wheeled, where I try to I try to make people think like, oh hey, thanks, my hand sucked. But I this was the one time where I was just like, my heart. I didn't tell anybody I had turned one Atali, but I was clearly could not keep back the disappointment. And after the guy that went first, he usually runs Atali, and he was like, "You kept your first hand. Was it great?" And I was like, "It was phenomenal." I was like, "I had turn one Atali," and he was just like, "Oh man, I hate to see it." And I was just like, "Yeah." So Rogsai wheels us, and I will say one thing with Atali is a very simple deck for the most part. It's a bunch of mana generation and then things that make copies of Atali. So the deck, even whenever I get wheeled, every hand is a good hand. I never look at a hand and go, "Oh, I'm done." Like this is a whole bunch of junk now. But it just wasn't as good as it needed to be. So I was pretty behind on Atali the entire game. Whenever we got wheeled, I went into my turn two and I had dual caster combo, which is Twin Flame, hold priority, dual caster. It's 5 red mana. Um, and I was just like, maybe I'll just slink out of here, you know? So I cast Twin Flame, held priority. I can't remember. I think I had some red mana generation spell, so I was worried about a Mind Break Trap because it would have been my third spell with dual caster. And Twin Flame held priority, dual caster. Past Elsha didn't have anything. Past Rogside didn't have anything. And we had just freshly wheeled, so I was like, I feel pretty good about this. Past to Rona. Rona had a Force of Will and burned the Force of Will on my dual caster, so I didn't even get the creature. And I was just like, this I've been disappointed twice in this. Like, I pretty much after that I was done. Elsha ended up doing I believe it was Thought Lash combo where just everything on their deck they could mill whenever they wanted and cast everything from the top, and they had a bunch of zero cost rocks. So it was pretty much like I let the table know. I was like, hey, if Thought Lash resolves, we're kind of dead, because they can just hold priority and just pay zero to take the top card off of their deck to stop a damage to them, but they were just going through with Elsha out, and nobody had a counter because they used it on me. So he won. I was just like, that hurts to do a winning combo and pass, but it happens. Really, I should have probably waited until I had at least one interaction, but I mean, with everybody having a freshly willed hand, three blue players, somebody's probably going to stop me. But it was my only window, and it would have been nice if it resolved. But I mean, you have to take that window and go like, this is a gamble, but it's a gamble in my favor. I didn't get it. Okay. Yeah.
I'm with you on round two. I'm not even gonna lie. Like this, my round two was so sad.
I
Uh,
was depressed even going, like reliving it. And now I'm just like, I'm glad you're talking because I need a break to process. Like,
so my round two, I ended up going seat four, but seat one was Clark Shakashima. Seat two was Thrasios Vile Smasher. Seat three was Blue Farm, and then seat four was me. Um, pretty much the exact same play. Now that I'm listening to you say how you did, uh, I mulligan down to second seven, which was a decent hand. Like I was gonna be able to drop Ristic Study turn one, and I was over the moon. I was like, yes, this will keep me in the game because Krakashima is is a threat. And not only was it a Krakashima, it was probably the best Krakashima player I've ever played.
You mean the one that won Mox Masters webcam tournament?
He
Yeah.
did. He's really good guy. I've played him multiple times now. I will say though, if you're listening, your politics, man, they're on point. Like
Hmm.
you turned all of these guys against me, and I was like, guys, I'm seat four. Like I get it. Have y'all ever played this deck? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, look, this deck is very hard to deal with once it gets started.
Yeah, that's a deck that you just cannot let them have anything. Like Kinnan is one of those decks that clearly when Kinnan starts going off, is going off, but there's lots of things you can do against Kinnan. There is nothing you can do about somebody that can continually cast Fierce Guardianship over and over and over and over and over and over. Like somebody that with 3 cards in hand can cast 100 spells. Like
It sucked, man. Like I'm not even gonna lie. So see the first this was my first rotation here, and it was Krakashima dropped out a bunch of stuff. He was able to almost dump his hand. I believe that the other blue farm player had um, a cavern, so gemstone cavern. So he was able to have mana turn one, like on all turns.
that's always nice. Yeah.
And then Vile Smasher or Vile Thrasios pretty much stumped their hand. And the whole time Krakashima is laying in them politics. You know, it gets to the blue farm player's turn, and he puts out some mana, and then does a tutor or something. And Krakashima is like, "All right, let's see that will." And I was like, "No, don't do it."
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, you know, blue farm scary. I couldn't I couldn't talk him out of it.
7 cost 7/7 dinosaur apparently scary.
Oh,
Like yeah.
And then from there on, it was legit. Everything I tried to play would get countered.
Yeah.
And then I would be like, man, look, a smothering tide needs to hit the field. And they're like, no, it doesn't. I was like,
You wouldn't get that past me.
I
Like, yeah.
to be fair, we had just watched Krakashima set up because he was about to start get probing us. And
Okay.
I was like, fair enough, guys. Y'all just pay
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. I would not be like if you were like, hey, Smothering Tide needs to hit field, I'd be like, no. And if you were like, well, you need to save your counters for him. So I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do to set myself up. And if you want to burn counters and make everybody lose, cool. You know?
That ended up being
Yeah.
the play,
Yeah.
and it sucked. But honestly, I was trying to argue the fact that I needed the Ristic study too, and it's just harder to
Yeah.
argue
Yeah.
those. But to be fair, though, Krakashima plays like 15 spells a turn,
Hmm.
easy.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, just watch him, man. Just watch him.
The moment you let Krakashima set up, it's pretty much done. There's not a lot you can do. Like
I have a Krakashima deck, and I enjoy it. Nobody else does. However,
I enjoy it when you have an 80-minute limit and you can't take a 50-minute turn without tying. Yeah. Like,
so it was cool to see the spice that he put in since the last one. He was like, this card here is
hmm.
amazing. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was some kind of elemental, and
Yeah, it was the elemental from MH3, the mythic red. Whenever you cast a spell, you discard a card, draw a card. The other one is like I think everybody takes two damage, and then the other one is you get 5 red mana or something.
it put in so much
Yeah,
work.
it's good. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, at the end of this tournament, he was one of he was at the final table,
Yeah.
but it went. we lost to Karakushima round three, and it started. We tried to counter him out. The draw engine was already on board. He was just gunning it. Like there was nothing else. I think I burned every counter spell I could put, and it still wasn't enough because he had it.
Yeah, learning from there. Do not let Kirk Shakashima start up. Like that is a deck you have to hamstring immediately, and it might seem like you're just going way too hard on them, and you might feel bad for them. Don't, because what once you see, Jessica's will cast 50 times and their entire deck exiled and able to cast, like you won't feel bad for him anymore.
It it was interesting. Like I said, he played a lot of the new spice. I knew some of the combos that he was going for, so he won even though I exiled. It was Jessica's will. He was really gunning,
Yeah, that has to go. Yeah.
but I mind break trapped it. He couldn't counter it, so it went off like it was going off the stack. He had a copy of it and red flared it, and he was like, "Well, now
Oh
that's my
yeah,
Jessica's
yeah,
will," and I'm like, "Oh my god! Like I
yeah.
can't stop this guy anymore."
Just side note, so we met him for the first time like a year ago, and it was really cool because we'd watched Mox Masters, went to a tournament, and then you'd sat down at a table with him, saw his commanders, and then he put out his playmat, and we were like, that's the playmat that won Mox Masters, and you were like, I literally have your deck proxied in my backpack right now, like this is cool, like
Oh yeah, it was like I said. I've known him for a while now, and he's a great guy. A shame that he did me so dirty,
yeah.
but that's part of the play, I
That's
guess.
that's I mean, I've done you dirty in tournaments too. Like there is no friendship in a tournament. All right, let's move on to round three. So my round three was Short Cry, Blue Farm, Dahada, and then me in seat four again on
Ugh.
Tali. Um, so Short Cry played, set up, Blue Farm, turn one wheel. Did not get my opening hand again. Which seat two, turn one wheel, it's like it's frustrating to me because like the person that's in seat one has a 25% chance to win. Uh and then everybody else has like 19 to 14% and then a 19% chance to tie. And then you're going to let that person set up and then wheel everybody else, like that doesn't make any sense. And it happened to me twice, which I mean if you dump your entire hand and you're just trying to get 7 cards back, like I get it, but that wasn't the case. So it was Short Cry, Blue Farm, Dahada, and then me. So very very scary. Short Cry clearly was kind of new. uh we all were in, loser pot at that point. We had all had 2 losses. So really at the end of the day, it was just I got a turn two wheel, seat four, couldn't do anything. Blue Farm tried to go for Underworld Breach combo, set out a Teferi, and then they realized they didn't have the blue mana to start the combo. So they had a Teferi out where nobody could cast anything past, and then of course most of what Dahada needs is a silence to win. And with that silence, Dahada was like, all right, cast Dahada, get 4 treasures, flicker, get 4 treasures, flicker, went through their entire deck and won and burned us all out with the little Mayhem Devil because they
Mm.
had so many treasures. And I was just like, okay, cool. Spoiler alert, I dropped after that. I have never dropped from a tournament before, but I had a tattoo appointment on Sunday and we were playing on Saturday and it was 4 hours away from the tournament that we were at. And it was like 3 p.m. And there are 2 more rounds. And looking at how they were doing it, I was just like, if I have 3 losses and I get even 2 wins from here, I won't even get into top 10 because it'd be a tiebreak situation with 10 points. And I am in the lowest win rate. So I could play 2 games just to have fun, which usually I do because I'm there to play. Like I don't want to get buys. I just want to play, meet people, have fun. But this was the one where I was like, if I drop now, it's 3 p.m. I'll get to the town I need to be at like 7, or I could stay pretty much play till 7 or 8 p.m. And this is a small town, so if I check into the hotel at like midnight, I don't even know if somebody's gonna be there, to give me my key. My key. So I was just like, I'm gonna drop eating a wheel every single round and uh, not doing well. Kind of had my spirits down, so I was like, this is the one time I'm gonna drop and go to my tattoo appointment. So as far as this event, I am done. So I'm gonna hand it back over to Gaming Ghost.
Yeah, I knew that it was kind of a shorter one for you, so I
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
kind of like, well, let him get it out.
Yeah, this was therapy for me. I'm sad. Like,
So my round three, this was a bit of an upswing for me. Um, I was seat one with Blue Farm. Seat two was Slicer. Seat three was Marith, I think. I think it was green, white, red, or it could have been green, black, red. I don't really remember exactly. And then it was the guy that had the Ellis. It was I guess it was a Pilgrim guy, the one that was kind of like
oh, the one that they
aristocrats.
printed their entire deck. Yeah,
Yeah. So with a game like this, I felt pretty confident. I Blue Farm will win. There's not a chance that it wouldn't. Not that I didn't have a lot of faith in the other decks, um, but the black white I really didn't know. I didn't think that it. I thought he was just playing for fun, really. And then the other guy that wasn't um, Slicer, I'd never seen that deck before, and everybody had a certain hate for the Slicer player in general,
you have to.
which great because he's already the bad guy. So
Yeah,
I was able to get some key pieces out and it not really seem bad. I'd gambled. I had a bowmaster on the field, and I gambled for a wheel of fortune. And I was like, guys, right now the only thing I can think of, because other than just drawing like a swords to plowshare to drop slicer, is to get a wheel and just wheel slicer off the table. And they were okay with it for the most part.
yeah.
And what ended up happening is I gambled, which was a red entomb this time, and just threw away my stuff. I got to a point where I did pull Underworld Breach, maybe like the turn later, and a Mockingbird. So I Mockingbird my Bowmaster, Underworld Breached with Lion's Eye in hand, and pretty much wheeled the table to death with two Bowmasters. So that was my win on that one, which is just a side note. I recently, like the night before, put back in my wheel because I was like, it needs to be there. It's just a good card.
It's a card in the wrong hands is very detrimental to the table.
It's a good card. I
Yeah,
enjoyed it a
yeah.
lot.
Uh,
If I would have been playing with cardboard, I'd probably wheeled him too.
were you in seat two, and did you wheel turn one after seat one set up?
No,
I'm salty if you can.
no, I didn't get there.
Yes, Slicer is one of those decks that you basically know that you are going to 1v3 the entire table, and you have to be prepared to do that. And I do not think Slicer can do that in the current meta.
To
Also, if you pass to somebody that has a food chain, you're just basically that person's going to win because they exile, they don't sacrifice.
to be fair, he did a really good job. I think that he had got the deck and just wanted to join the tournament, which
Yeah, I mean,
by far,
yeah. Please,
by far
please,
do
please
that.
do. Yeah,
But he was actually at another tournament we played too, and again had a lot of fun.
yeah. Slicer be slicing.
Yeah,
Yeah, Slicer sets up a prisoner's dilemma where everybody turns on you, and you have to be able to navigate that world to win.
with round three under my belt, I was feeling pretty confident, and I was like, okay, so I won one, let's go to round four. Going into round four, this was another deck where, or another round where I looked at all the commanders and I was like, this is going to be a game. Uh, Seat one was me with Blue Farm. Seat two was Nadu. Seat three was Rogsai, and seat four was Najila.
Oh yeah.
Um, so this was, I don't want to say it was all my fault that I lost here. All my fault that we lost as a group here. But Rogsai was kind of quiet, and during mulligans, I was like, I'm gonna mulligan this hand, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep my second seven. I go, wait a minute, Rockside, what hand are you on? He was like, oh, I kept first seven, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
I was like, guys, do y'all have any counters? And they were like, nope. I was like, oh man, okay, so we're going. So this was a loss round two, or uh, yeah, round two with Rogsai.
What seat was Rogsai?
He was seat three.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Now this is where I kind of messed up. So, uh, the turn before, I had a counter. I had two counters. Somebody had tried to counter one of my things, and I countered it so I could get some value on the board. And then Nadu went and played a Ristic study, and I was like, I I probably need to stop the Ristic.
Ristic stops Rogsai though. Like it's one of those weird things where it's like Rogsai technically has a hard time comboing off if that exists, but yeah.
As soon as I did it, I felt bad because I passed to Rogsai and I was like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
or not passed to him, but Nadu passed to him, and I was like, okay. I tried to counter one of his pieces, and then he just played through it with whatever else
Mm-hmm.
he had. And I was like, guys, do y'all have anything? And I look at their mana, it's tapped out, no
Yeah.
commanders on board. I was like, oh man, this is bad. So,
Whenever I'm on a Tali and somebody counters a fish or a Ristic and then I'm like, oh thank you. Like that saves my red elemental blast. Like
yeah, it it was not great.
yeah, yeah.
I lost turn two, and he did it so quick. Again, Rogsai, King of Fast. Um,
The scary thing about Rogsai is like a lot of people are like, oh, well, I can be as fast as Rogsai, and it's like, no. The thing that's scary about Rogsai is fast and has access to a bunch of free counters.
mm,
Like for the most part, Rogsai can engage and then have stuff to back it up on turn, two to three.
yeah, it was so quick, and really, I want to say it was my fault because I countered the. I even looked at Nadu and I was like, man, I'm sorry. Like, I shouldn't have countered your stuff. I should have had one more up for him, but I just didn't want the Ristic study to go off because I do a lot of Storm too, and I just didn't want to deal with it.
I mean, if Nadu is not presenting it as like, hey, I'm gonna play this, but this is all I can do to stop Rogsai, like, you know, I would probably at that point, I would be like, hey guys, I would like to play a Ristic study. Would you let it go through? What I need is I have no counters in hand and I'm passing to Rogsai. Can I get this through? And if everybody's like, yeah, then I would play it. But if he just dropped it and just hoped that you would understand, like that's a politic loss on his end.
I think we had talked for a good 40 minutes afterwards because
Yeah, there's
he
nothing
he
else to
he,
do.
he
Yeah.
won 15 minutes into the game, but um like the Najila I was talking to, that was his buddy, and he was like, yeah, it was hard. Like, I get what you were wanting to do. Would it have helped? Probably. Would it have stopped him? Probably not. It was
Yeah.
just his opportunity.
Yeah.
And again, I felt kind of sour about that one because I directly affected that one, and I felt it. Um, After the 40 minutes of chatting with them guys, we went into round five. Um, in between the round 4 and 5, I did talk to one of the guys that came with me, like rode with me, and he was like, "Man, you know the Pedialyte and such is really just keeping
Oh
mine
yeah, from
going."
our tournament
Yeah, from the
survival.
tournament
Yeah,
survival. I was like, "Yeah, man, I live it. Like I'm drinking it up, trying to get it together. I ate something real quick. We're good."
that one gets a lot of views. Like people like it. Like if you're listening to this podcast and you're like really thinking about tournaments, you're like, man, tournaments sound fun. Like I'm gonna convince me and my friends to go. While you guys are riding there, well, we're really before, but it'd be too late. But I would say like everybody sit down and listen to that because even as somebody that made the podcast, there are times that like I'll kind of think back and I'm like, I don't have my Pedialyte. I need to go get Pedialyte before this event. Like,
Pedialyte have like a brain food snack.
yeah,
You'd be golden.
make sure that your electrolyte packet is not also an energy drink packet. We'll go over that on the next one. But
Learned.
yeah, yeah, mistake made. Like,
But going into round 5, I think at this point I knew that the chances of me getting into the top were pretty much done. Um, with one, I think I had one win at the time and no draws or anything, which is 5 points total.
you could have with 2 wins, you could maybe have tie braked into top 10, but yeah,
We
it's tough.
Me and the guy that I rode with were talking, and I was like, I don't mind leaving now if you want, but we could stay too and play.
Yeah.
And I mean, I came to play. I don't mind playing. He was like, yeah, let's just play them. So going into round 5, we had that that conversation, and then getting there, and I really did have fun playing it. Uh, so seat 1 was Alexios, which was Slicer Jr.
Slicer. Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Human slicer.
And then Kenrith, uh, me as Blue Farm, and then Kirik. I was like, I don't know how to, because Kirik goes fast.
Yeah.
Kenrith, he's more mid game, and it was already clear that mid game was not what was happening here. There was so many games that were over so quick.
Yeah, that one's tough because like if you put in a lot of work to stop Keurig, then you pass to a place where the other dude thrives in, So like,
It it kind of like the slicer, almost exactly.
yeah,
Everybody was like, we need to stop him
yeah.
because turn 1, this guy dropped some equipment that made him just stupid big.
There's a lot of equipment that on combat damage has effects, and it's balanced to only happen once. But with Slicer, because you attack every single round, instead of it happening once and you going through 3 people's turns, it happens 4 times. So it gets one of those is a strength testing hammer. That's the one I like, where it's just like this is happening every turn.
Yeah, I was. He clearly was the bad guy at the table, and Keurig was second.
Yeah.
The only issue with Keurig is he was seat 4, and he was kind of stuck. Like,
Yeah. I mean, in that, you would kind of hope Keurig being in black would take care of Slicer and not be able to go off as much. But yeah, that's tough.
um, as it was going through though, I did get a Ristic study out, and Kenrith was kind of going. He was going off,
Yeah.
and as it was happening, I was pretty much set up to win on my turn, and he got to a point where he had no mana, and he was like, I'm gonna have to pass. And at that point, I had drew Final Fortune, so I was able to go into a second turn. So I set up pretty much everything. First turn, I was like Grand Abolisher. Grand Abolisher hits, and
Final Fortune.
they were
Yeah.
like, oh no. And then I was like Final Fortune, went in and then toss it out. Like
Yeah.
it it was clean. It wasn't. We had politicked quite a bit to try to keep the slicer or the Alexios down. Uh, I didn't initially have the win, but as the Ristic study kept drawing, it was clear I was set to go. Afterwards, the Kenrith was like, "I should have just killed you," and I was like,
Yeah, you're
pro-
not wrong. Yeah.
Probably." I mean, Alexios is scary though.
Alexios is scary. Crick is scary too because at no point is Crick ever down and out. Like that's one thing I've noticed with Crick players is a lot of people will be like, "Oh, we stopped their combo." It's like that person has 30 life. Until they have 5 to 10 life, I'm worried about them. You know, like because
Mm.
even Kirik, if you let him get big, he life gains. So it's like, guys, he's not down and out. He is gonna start going off. You know, if we don't continually check what's going on here.
I really enjoy Keurig. I think that it's a decent deck. I do feel like it's all gas, no brakes, so it
Mm,
just goes.
yeah,
But a lot of decks are like that now. So that was my big takeaway from this tournament. Unfortunately didn't get enough points to get into the top 10. I think I was like 13th or 15th. So it was the 13th, 14th, something like that.
yeah. I mean, I I have a weird like just kind of in summary. I went 0-3. So I didn't do very well. A lot of it was just the amount of wheels. Like I had a seat 1 game and then 2 seat 4 games, and the amount of wheels. I was not prepared for how hard these people politicked. Like I'll say this event had master game politicking from a lot of people. Where I'm usually more of like a passive politicker, where like I will just be like, hey, this is my plan. I would really like Atali to resolve. All I'm trying to do is get some value to keep up. Like, you're behind. Please don't silence me. If you silence me, you'll take me out, and then it'll just be a 1v1 between these two, and we can't keep up with that. So don't use your resources on me, use it on them. And then people, they'll make their decision. But these people were hardcore, like, if you do this, I'll counter it. I want to keep my counters for this, blah blah blah. Like it was really interesting to see the level of politics, and I think taking away from the event, I need to not get wheeled. Turn one every time. I don't know how to stop that, but number two, I need to up my politics game because it's I'm decent, but I don't want to be decent. I want to be good.
I think the commander plays a big part too because Atali is always scary.
Yeah, and it's scary. It's a very like if for example, if you're at the table, it's very easy for you to be like, "Well, I mean, I'm just drawing cards. He's got a 7/7 dinosaur that he can flip and kill people and he'll take your cards and and
He's
then
big.
yeah, and then just people will just be like, "Oh, yeah, cards not scary. Dinosaur scary."
I will say in the top in the more top notch thing, I, I've drawn no cards before, like
Yeah.
where people have paid for the Mystic Remora, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, we're there.
I mean, also like if I'm being honest and someone's like, "Are you gonna win if you summon a Tali?" I'm like, I just don't know. I could. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no
Like
telling.
there are times where I've just been like, I can get a Tali out, whatever. And then I'll see the things that I flip into and I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be a 40-minute turn, but I win. Like yesterday when we were playing.
I think with the new rules too, it can change stuff a little bit, like being able to show one person a hand instead of the table.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, really kind of changes it a little bit. I don't think that it breaks the game, but it's interesting.
Yeah, and just to go into the new rule, I don't even know when it happened or whatever. But before, if you revealed to something, you had to reveal it to everybody. You couldn't just look at the person in seat 3 and be like, they're like, well, I want to counter, but I won't counter if you show me your hand. You couldn't just show them your hand. You had to show the entire table. But now you can just be like, Yeah, I'll make that deal. Show them your hand, and then none of the table gets to see it, which is interesting. I personally prefer that you have to reveal to everybody, but I mean, also rules that restrict the way people want to play. I'm not a fan of. Um, it was interesting. We'd had quite a lull, and this one was really weird because it was a full proxy tournament. Like every card in your deck could be proxy, which made it very accessible. And there are definitely people that were just like, yeah, I'll pay $40 to play, and they. I'm not gonna say they weren't at CEDH level. They were. They weren't at winning a tournament CEDH level. So there was a lot of people that were just crazy good, and then there were people that probably this was their first tournament ever. So there's a lot of disparity, but I mean, at the end of the day, like I should be able to play through that stuff, and I'm not really a fan of full proxy tournaments. This is going to be a podcast that we talk about later, but it's weird because like personally, my experience, it's not as good as events where there's only a limited amount of proxies, but also I really like how accessible full proxy events are. So it's like weird where I'm like, I don't like them, but I am going to go to them regardless because it's good experience either way.
And we don't like it in a way of it's you don't have the cards. That's not necessarily what he's saying. What he's saying is more of if you print out the deck, you could do it the night before,
Yeah.
and then you really don't know what you're doing. And
Hmm.
somebody that actually buys the cards, they kind of have that pride ish on, this is my deck. I have it real. I know how to play it.
And I
It's the
also
experience in
too,
it.
if the thing that I like about proxy, like actually having to have like an actual printed proxy, is you had to plan that 2 weeks in advance. So that person, they've put in some practice, that they planned in advance. There's a couple times where people are like, yeah, I decided that I was going to put these 5 cards in my deck the night before, and then they just threw them in, and it just throws their game off. We have a friend in the group that does that, and he does well in tournaments, so it works for him. But I couldn't do that because it would throw me completely off. Just throwing in a couple of new cards at the end and being like, let's try it in a tournament.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the tournament itself was good. I think that it was an eye opener to kind of where the meta had moved in the time that we hadn't went to tournament,
Yeah.
and I adjusted accordingly. Pretty much the night or the week of, I think I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna make some adjustments," and
Mm.
came and did them, and then it's been pretty nice so far.
Cool. Let's move on to tournament two. So this was literally the next weekend.
Yeah,
So all three of these were weekend, like no breaks in between. Which love it. If every month could be like this, hell yeah.
yeah. It was a fun time.
Yeah. So this was our local tournament. Like, as far as local, I could walk from my house to the actual tournament, which was cool. Like, we had always traveled like 4 hours, and we had some people that we had played at other places that traveled 4 hours to be there. So it was really cool seeing those people like in my backyard. Like, cool.
Pretty much, yeah.
It was a lower event because it was in a smaller town, smaller location. It ended up only being 26 people. And it was because of that, it was 3 rounds and then cut to top four, which is not really a great experience. Like if I go to a tournament, I want to play 5 rounds, but with top deck rules, 26 people is 3 rounds cut to top four was what it was. I had decided to also power down. I ran Balin this event. I just wanted to. I think it's a really cool, fun deck. I like that it's Naya and has value with tokens and card draw, and it does a lot of stuff. Like it's really cool. I wanted some local people to go, and I didn't want to kind of be like, I'm playing my tournament deck that I've won a Houston tournament with, and got a $600 cash prize, So kind of was wanting to have fun, but also kind of wanting to encourage some of the local people to go. So that's why I did Balin, and I had a lot of fun with it in the 3 rounds that I played. And then you Blue Farm again.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Blue Farm
yeah.
that tournament. This one was it was quite a bit shorter. I didn't really notate a whole lot into this one.
It was tough too because you had to win 2 out of 3 of your rounds to get in the top 4. So like, it was hard. Like,
I do have some takeaways from each game. I only really had two because I got a bye on my third,
yeah,
which you know,
yeah,
kind of bad there. But
yeah. Let's
I did end up playing with some people while everybody else was playing, so I wasn't just sitting there. But
yeah,
anyway,
let's get into round one. So my round one was scary. I was with 3 different people that normally top 16, top 4 in our other big events. So it was funny because I was like, yeah, I'm at my local event, showed up with a fun bunny deck, and then everyone was just scary. So it was seat 1, Blue Farm, which is already very scary. Seat 2, Vile Malcolm, which was scary. Seat 3, Najila. Seat 4, Balin. And those decks are scary whenever you don't know that the person that's piling it is good because those decks can just go off. And I knew for sure these people had all played their decks for 2 years, every tournament they could go to. And I'm here with my bunny deck that I built last 3 days ago.
mm,
uh, but I mean, I was in seat 4, so I knew that I needed to get an early stacks piece out. I went down to like 6, and I had a turn 1 deafening silence, and I was set up pretty good with Balin after I could drop the deafening silence, so I did it. And I was it was really interesting because I was the problem. Everybody it had gotten to the point where I was clearly going to win, and then at that point, pretty much everybody was like, he has this lockdown with stacks. I would rather have a tie. He's going to win, and the best we can hope for is a tie. So let's all 3 of us gang up and start killing his stuff and, taking his pieces out, which, is what happens when you play stacks and have 20 creature tokens on the field and you're drawing, 4 cards a turn. No shade at them. Like they did exactly what they should do. It's for me, it's kind of a problem with stacks as a whole is if you don't set up stacks, then somebody just wins. And if you do set up stacks, everybody gets upset that they can't play and everybody turns on you. And you have to have a deck that can 3v1. And I will say Balin was doing pretty good 3v1ing. I almost won. Really, it came down to the fact that I wasn't able to tutor any of my combos, which I did add more creature tutors after this. But I was happy with a tie. Seat 4 going against 3 people that had probably I know that at least 2 of them had won tournaments before that I'd been at, so I was happy to with my bunny deck, get a tie and actually be the problem. So that to me that was a personal win, but it just went on record as a tie. So
so my my round one was I don't remember exact seat order. I believe it was Corvald seat one, Derevi seat two, Prosh seat three, and then I was seat four in Blue Farm. First off, if you don't know the colors of those decks, I was the only blue other than Derevi,
yeah.
which cool. I'm okay with that. The problem is that I didn't really know what to do against the Derevi. I haven't played enough of them. And what it seemed like is this was a Nadu deck with Derevi as the pilot.
And a lot of I've seen a lot of people do that, and I don't agree with it because it's at that point just play Derevi. I understand Derevi Bant is really really good in modern, but don't ever in my opinion don't ever play a deck where you have a secret commander that if somebody deals with it your entire deck is shut off because you can't resummon it from the command zone.
Uh, in his defense, with the pod we were in, it worked because he just waited on Corvald to go off
Yeah.
and me to use my counters. And then after the counters went, um, he put out Nadu, and then this white creature, I can't think of the name.
The Encore something. It's a zero cost, prevent one damage to target creature. So just for zero, you get all of your Derevi triggers.
Yeah,
So yeah,
he would get 7 Derevi triggers, or not Derevi,
yeah.
seven
Sorry, yeah,
Nadu
Nadu
triggers.
on everyone's turn, not just your own, because it's
Yeah,
instant speed. Yeah,
and I was like, oh my god. And the other two couldn't back me up to try to stop him. And he just took the game.
do you want to know how fast Magic the Gathering as a company works? So that card is in Booster 2 in a time spiral new frame. So they were like, "Oh, this card, people want this card. We're reprinting it, and we're reprinting it in a bunch of cool frames to get people to buy stuff." So
Which one?
the one that the
Oh,
Encore
the
thing,
the white creature.
it was one of those cards that was like a 15-cent card, and then Nadu used it, and now they're like, we're reprinting it and we're going to put it in a whole bunch of cool frames. So if they ever say like, oh well, we're going to reprint this, it's on the list, we need about a year to do it, liars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a really cool combo to see. It did make me kind of want to build Derevi and use Nadu. Um, I think after all of the stuff you've seen, I think you've built Nadu and it's been performing.
I won 4 times in a row yesterday, so yeah. On the
It
first day I played it.
I do not like Nadu anymore.
You don't like it because I have blue now.
I don't
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
Um, I'll go with my round two if it's cool because I don't it's no wasn't
Oh,
you
mine sucks too, so yeah, go ahead.
and then I'd be sitting out after this one.
Yeah.
So my round two ended up being I honestly don't remember the placing at all on this one, but it was me at Blue Farm, Savala, Najila, and then Malcolm Timna, I believe.
Yeah.
Um,
The
Malcolm Timna tried to shoot out a quick Adnaz and ended up losing the dice roll for Crypt and dying. Najila just overwhelmed me and Savala and ended up winning. That was pretty much it.
Let's hear my round two. My round two was Magda in seat one, Sisse, Balin, and Derevi in seat four. And I don't even remember what Derevi. It took me a while to go, what was seat four?
Yeah.
So Magda, turn one, God Hand. Dropped their entire hand and clown car, and I believe got Magda out. Like it was insane. I mulliganed knowing that I would have to stop Magda, so I had an oof in hand, and I was like, if it gets to my turn two, I do have oof, which at the end of the day, Magda just sacrifices the treasures. She doesn't really need to tap them. But it slows Magda down quite a bit because all of the unwinding clock, or not unwinding clock, but the clock of omens and all that stuff. It would have given us a fair chance, but basically Magda dumps entire hand, is just going off. Sisse, instead of going, maybe we need to stop Magda, just went, I'm gonna get a turn one smothering tithe,
Mm,
for some reason. And as they did it, I was like, hey, we're gonna lose to Magda. Like you might have 2 treasures, and then Magda comes up, but like if you can't do anything with those 2 treasures, like we all need to get this fixed. Magda had a god hand and is in seat one. Like this is a loss for us. And they just went ahead and jammed it. Which I mean, if you're gonna try to win on turn one and just your out is I'm just gonna win before they get a turn two, go for it. But don't just set up like smothering tithe. So of course they were like, I need to do what I need to do. I'm not gonna listen. And then Derevi was like, I'm gonna counter it if you do it. And they were like, I'm gonna do it. And then they burned their free counter on smothering tithe because made sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently these two are friends that play together all the time too. So the dude knew what the guy how the guy played. So I just set up on Balin, passed to Derevi. Derevi's hand was messed up because they had to burn a free counter they passed, and Magda just did Magda things, tutored out a whole bunch of pretty much tutored out their entire deck. Like the other two people scooped, and I was like, no, I want to see it. And like the guy thought that like I wanted to see it because I was going to stop him, but I just wanted to see it because he's the shop owner of where we like to go play, and I'd never because we play at his shop. He doesn't enter, so I was like, I want to see you win. Like let's do it. And basically, he got Magda out, got the other Magda out from Cowboy set, and then just killed us all with infinite 4/4 hasty dragons. Turn two, it was my turn one. I think I had played a forest and then played a carpet of flowers at path. So like it hurt my feelings. It was cool to see, and again, it was an 80-minute round, and we had 75 minutes of free time. Uh, and then your round three was a bye, which you didn't get to play. My round three was I had first seat Balin against Najila, against Sushi, and then against another Magda. There were a lot of Magdas there. And then Sushi is Thrasios Tevish. So on Balin, got set up a lot of stuff. I had tried to politic where I was like, hey, I'm in seat one, but Magda's going off. What I can do is I can set up an OOF and a mind sensor, and then Magda's just done. And then Najila was trying to do Najila things, couldn't get in through me, was trying to get in through Sushi, but Sushi was setting up all those 0-1s, so it wasn't really taking out the warriors. So Najila was still like building up. But a lot of it was I was trying to lock the game down because we needed it, and Sushi and Najila were trying to remove my stacks pieces, and I was just like, don't do that because you're not gonna win. We're gonna stop you. uh, we ended up just going to tie. So in that event, I had two ties, one losses. And spoiler for the next event, Balin tied a lot in that event too. So she's on or I don't even know the gender of Balin, but Balin's on the back burner where it has potential. I do like the deck. I don't think it's fast enough, and I think just stacks as a deck just doesn't work in CDH. I really want it to. I really have a lot of fun, but I'm gonna keep it as a fun deck, and if it gets better, it gets better. But it's hard to play Balin and go, oh yeah, this is a good deck, and then play Nadu and be like, oh, I won 4 games in a row. Nadu, I'm probably gonna enter Nadu or Italia. you know?
Mm. I think where the format is it's just a faster game,
Mm-hmm.
and that I got from the first tournament. The second tournament was kind of um, a little harder to judge there just because of the rounds, but um,
I mean, I keep seeing that really in my mind. If you're not going to play blue, you need to be fast. And then if you're not playing blue and you're trying to sheriff the table with stacks, it just doesn't work. Like if you're not playing blue, you need to be fast. If you are playing blue, you can be a little bit slower, but a lot of those blue decks like Blue Farm, uh, Nadu. A lot of those blue decks can win fast. I think really like Sisse and Kenrith are really the only decks that. I mean, I guess Najila somewhat too, but Najila can win pretty quickly. But those 5 color decks run blue to get to mid game, and those other decks are I run blue, but I can win right away too. So
mm,
they're scary. Like that to me, that's what makes Roxai so scary. Is I'm fast, but I also have counters to back it up.
yeah, just go.
Yeah. Overall learnings for me was just you got to go out and support your local game stores. I had a lot of fun. It was really cool seeing all of my friends and seeing all of my Dallas friends and seeing all that. But I mean, with 26 entries, we only got to play 3 rounds, and I mean, you're a good example of you got to play 2 rounds and then you had do a buy. So if you would have shown up, you would have played 2 rounds, which a 4 hour drive for 2 rounds would really hurt my
It
feelings.
it would make you think about coming back,
Yeah, for sure.
and that's unfortunate.
But
I don't blame the people that drove.
mhm.
Um, I blame it. Really, we should have more support locally to do it.
Yeah, I mean the shop, so much props to them. It was their first event. They went and got like an actual judge from Houston, so like from
Same
two
guy.
hours away. Yeah, same guy that we had played with the weekend before. Like they did it. They made all kinds of connections. They learned how to put it on top deck. They even bought us pizza for lunch, which I've never had a shop provide me food at a tournament. So like they did great. Like super props to them. But a 26 3 round tournament, it's tough to justify the drive for that. So I mean, if you guys see these events and you're thinking, maybe I shouldn't go. I'm not up to. I'm not going to win it. So why would I enter? Like, please go and support your local shops. Like they deserve the support.
They do, and again, props to them for providing the food. I believe they're already getting ready to post a second one,
Yeah,
which is even cooler. That's in our town. That's what was trying to happen.
yeah. And I mean, like we might like while we're going through the rounds, being like, oh, this person clearly didn't have a CDH deck or like they didn't have practice on it, but like at no point am I ever like that this person should have never shown up. Like if it's your first event and you're just learning and you have a off meta deck that you want to play, like the people, if I lose to one of those decks, I always think I need to be better so I can play through that. Like to me, that's a learning opportunity. If anybody's salty and they're like, "Well, you should never entered," like you're not a CDH deck. Like, respectfully, screw them. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Shut
like,
up,
yeah, shut up.
because
Yeah,
at the end of it, to me personally, dealing with the community, it's always been a positive light. I think that um, the community is small but has great people,
yeah.
and it should grow.
I,
Personally,
I want more people to play. Like I might complain about not ideal, pods, but at the end of the day, if more people don't play or if people stop playing, it'll the phone format will not be around and it'll slowly die. And I want people to play. I'm always cool with people doing proxies for just coming out and playing for Friday night or anything like that. So we're gonna go over proxy event versus non-proxy event in another one. But I mean, at no point do I want anybody to listen to this podcast and be like, well, if I'm not playing Blue Farm or Nadu, I shouldn't enter. Like that is not the case. Please enter. Please learn.
I
Please play with off meta decks. I love going against off meta decks whenever I'm in a pod because I'm like, what is this person gonna do? And it keeps me on my toes and it trains me to be a better player.
actually at the last tournament we went to, I seen two decks that I'm actually considering building, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
that's big for me
yeah,
because I don't.
yeah.
I don't really go uh, with one of those special decks. However, I am thinking about it.
Yeah, let's get into our third one. I think we're probably going to sit and talk about this one the most because it's at our favorite venue to go play. So this was the Skirmish 5. We have gone to every one. Our first ever CDH tournament was Skirmish 1, and it blew our minds. Like I was playing a Timna Kodama stacks at the time, and it really shaped me as a CDH player. So I always love to go out and support the event. And this specifically is the one that the Magda player that I lost to very quickly hosts, and he doesn't get to play. So it was really cool to see him and then show up 4 hours away from my house, and then him be like, "Oh, I saw you guys last weekend."
To put it in perspective, we were there at the scrimmage, and one of the big shop owners in Dallas came, and then one in
Yeah,
Waco
yeah,
came. So at that tournament, there was three people that were running their own stores and also collaborating to make more tournaments.
Yeah,
It's just great, great to see.
I love seeing that the shop owners genuinely like playing. Like, yeah,
Mm.
like that's cool. So this time was different. So normally the skirmish was zero proxies. Your entire deck had to be legal. And they opened it up to full proxies this time and up to 10 written cards. And because of that, we usually saw like 32, 36, 43 at this one. So it was a full 5 round event, which was really refreshing after doing the 3 round event locally. And I am a big proponent that I do not like written cards. I'm not going to say that events shouldn't host them, but I just, again, don't think that you being able to write on a basic land or like one of the MDF cards the night before and then just throw it in your deck and everybody be like, huh, what, like what is that, and then have to look it up on their phone. And the fact that you can just throw it in last minute and just run with I'm not a fan. I do like the accessibility because I do understand that some people might hear about it a week before and then be like, oh, I really want to enter, and they're like, well, I wouldn't have time to go order proxies. Like you can't just go to a place and be like, print me out 2 proxies please. Like
Yeah, yeah.
so I get it. It didn't interfere too much. I did see probably like 2 rounds with written cards. They didn't really come up very often, so I was appreciative that it wasn't like entire decks. Like I think 10 written cards is a lot, but it worked this time. It wasn't too bad.
I think it worked because not many people actually used that.
That is
I
true.
only seen one of the written cards my entire time, which
Yeah,
is
and this is a community of very like they play all the time. They were saying that what there's usually 18 CDH players. Yeah.
I did ask him at the local tournament, the owner of the store at the scrimmage, about how many players are at his place on a given Friday, and he's like, usually like 18.
We're lucky if we get 3 to play. Like yesterday, we didn't think that we are gonna get a group together, and we ended up slowly collecting a 4 person pod. And everybody was so excited to play. We played literally from noon to 12:30 at night. We had 12 and a half hours straight of gameplay, which was fantastic. Like
This also made me hate Nadu,
yeah,
just so you know.
yeah. So again, you were on Blue Farm.
Yeah.
I had decided, so I tweaked Balin from the other one, and I decided to run Balin. I was having fun, and I wasn't feeling all that great. I had had a sinus infection that had kind of moved to my ears, so one of my ears was a little stopped up. I don't know if you guys have ever had that, but it basically feels like you have like a blockage in your ear, but it's sinus pressure. So I was like, I don't really want to play Atali. Atali is surprisingly a high IQ deck, in my opinion, because not only do I need to know my lines, I need to know how your cards affect my lines, and I have to get all of your permanents. The permanents are the killer there, where it's like, okay, I have all of your permanents. How can I squeeze enough value out of cards that aren't in my deck to win? And I just wasn't up for it. Balin had done some work in the previous one, so I wanted to try it out. And honestly, everybody that I showed up, they were like, "You have the foil raised Balin, like full art $200 Balin card, like that's awesome." Like people were passing it around and like looking at the art,
Mm.
so everybody had fun. Would I enter Balin again? Probably not until I really saw like a hive mind like figure it out. But I had a regardless, I had a blast. I'll go into my round one. My round one, which is going to be really fast, was Blue Farm on seat one, me on Balin, seat two, seat three, Kennen, seat four, Rafine, which is Esper, white, blue, black. Um, same thing where Blue Farm set up, turn two, I just couldn't set up any meaningful stacks. So I passed. I think I put out like an Esper. Kennen, same thing, set up, tapped out. Rafine, same thing, passed to Blue Farm. Blue Farm just popped an Adnaz. And uh, they went all the way down and they did. they had Esper out, and they went all the way down with Demont Consultation, Thasset on stack, and I had a Summoner's Pact in my hand that I had enough mana that I could have played Summoner's Pact, killed them, and then paid, and then done nothing on my turn and passed. But honestly, the more I looked at it, the more I was like, I do not have Windline in my hand. If I did that, I would be out a turn. I would pass to Kennen, who is set up with mana rocks. And honestly, this is, do I lose to Blue Farm now, or do I kill Blue Farm, do nothing, and then pass to Kennen, and Kennen wins? Rafine was so far behind. They basically played a land and passed, and there was no way I could 1v1 Balin Kennen. And it was one of those things where, like, if I can kill someone, but I know for sure I'm just gonna king make, I really try to consider that whenever I'm playing. And it didn't benefit me to kill them. I would have just lost. I decided to not do it. Just why do that to myself? Like, pay 4 mana just to do nothing. So
Yeah, for sure.
I just decided that I was like, yeah, you got it. Um, I'm not gonna Summoner's Pact. I'm nowhere close to a win. Kennen's very close to a win. I'm gonna pass because I'm in seat 2, and if Kennen and Rafine don't have counters being blue, like, it's a win. And I passed and we lost, and it kind of hurt because I was just like, I could have done something. But at the same time, like, if I'm seat 2 and I'm looking at 2 other blue players, like, I really can't do that to myself. I have to pass. And if it ends up being a loss, great. Well, not great. That sucks. But I mean, if blue ends up stepping up and they deal with it, then I'm like, okay, cool. They put themselves a little bit behind. Now I have a chance, which I wouldn't have had a chance. So I feel like I made the right decision. How was your round one?
My round one, I was seat three with Blue Farm. So let's go seat one. I'm sorry. So it was Sauron, Evelyn. Sauron was seat one. Evelyn was seat two. I was seat three in Blue Farm. And then Derevi was seat four. Um, this was the first time I'd ever seen an Evelyn deck in
Yeah.
CEDH. And I didn't understand it fully.
We have a friend that is very new to Magic. Like, she basically plays precons, and she came over one time and she was like, I really like Evelyn because she pulled her from a pack. So I went, go through my bulk, grab any vampire you want, and then make your deck. I'm probably just gonna donate these commons, so if you can use them, cool. And she beat us once, but we've probably played like 8 games with her. So that was the type of Evelyn we were used to.
This one was very interesting. I knew some of the combos as far as parts of them and what they do.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Ultimately, Sauron kind of set up a little bit past to Evelyn, and then Evelyn did an Entomb, World Gorger, and Grave.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, a red flag there. Like, you're
Yeah,
just like,
yeah.
whoa, there's no because I was watching creatures and everything that was in Grave, and I was like, okay, there's no creatures in Grave.
At the very least, they can force a tie if they do a loop that they can't end. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
well, I was there. I
yeah,
was like, okay, he probably not what they're gonna do
yeah.
then. I this game ended up being a slog where we were just stuck. But I just kept putting value on the board, you know, draw engines, get a couple of cards here and there. Evelyn, like I said, Evelyn dropped the World Gorger. Derevi was just kind of trying to keep up in seat four. Um, Sauron had multiple counters and used them all at pivotal points, which was great. Um, I ended up winning with a stack with EOS on it. So I played Ranger Captain. I sacked Ranger Captain. I went and got with Ranger Captain ETB the Mockingbird. which allowed me to use dockside twice, and I did some funky stuff there. But how I ended up winning was the Silence Turn Underworld Breach combo. After that game, though, I was like, Evelyn, like, what were you trying to do?
Yeah.
And he was like, I was like, man, you would have just kept the game in a stalemate because there was no creatures in grave when you tried. And he was like, oh no, man,
Yeah. She has flash.
she has
Yeah.
flash. So initially, you start the World War. This is the deck I want to build.
I went against him. I'll go through that in my round, but yeah, like
So
I saw it. I saw it live. Like
essentially, what he was trying to do was start the World Gorger, and then as he builds the infinite mana, cast Evelyn, and then have her just blink in and out and deck you.
so. I didn't realize two things about it. I'll get into this more on my round with him. Evelyn has flash. Didn't realize it. Um, Also, Evelyn is multi pip. So Evelyn is not two black, red, blue. Evelyn is two red or black, black, blue or black. So you can get all black mana and still cast Evelyn.
It the fact that he was trying to present almost turn one. Yeah, pretty much.
I'll go there.
I was like, holy crap, that's
Yeah,
crazy. And I want to build that deck. But that was my round one. It was a clean win. Like there was nothing at the end of it where the stack got massive, but I had EOS on the stack and
yeah,
I was just waiting on EOS to hit.
yeah.
Uh, Not only was EOS on the stack, the
Eos was at the bottom of the stack.
but he was already there
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
sacked.
yeah.
So it wasn't it wasn't that somebody was going to counter it. And really, I was waiting on my search as well, and a clean win. It was just a clean win on that first round.
Cool. Round two. So I went against a Thrasios Bruce Taro, which was the first time I've experienced that deck. I was seat 2 with Balin, seat 3 Corvold, and seat 4 Blue Farm. So like all scary CDH decks, and then also Thrasios Bruce Tarl I'd never seen gone off. Thrasios Bruce had a hard time doing stuff because really, as I understand, and I might be wrong, and if I am wrong, please put comments in and tell me how Thrasios Bruce wins. But as I understand, it's a lot of just kind of bullying with creatures, and there are combos, but like part of it is getting that double strike life link and then turning that into Thrasios value. So we seem to be pretty similar decks where they had an extra color with blue, but otherwise it was the same deck. Balin and I had a weird hand that I kept. I had turn one Ocelot, which was from MH3 that if you gained life, you get a cat at the end, and then if you have the city's blessing, which is 10 permanents, you make a token of any token that entered. And my round one, I played that. Round two, I got the flip Ajani that puts out a 2/1 cat, and then if a cat dies, you flip him, and then he just goes crazy. Like he creates a 2/1 and then deals damage to any target based on the amount of creatures you have. So pretty much everybody was like, "You have a cat deck," and I was just like, it's not what it's meant to do, but
It's like
that's
it
what it's
is what
doing right
it
now.
is now.
And pretty much it was me trying to get a mass value from a bunch of cats because if they took care of one of the cats, I flip a Johnny and I just burn. And if they don't, then with Balin, I get a lot of mana and a lot of card draw, and I was trying to draw into my combos. But it was scary, and everybody was like, Thrasios Bruce was like, I can't get through with all of that. Corvold was like, I'm a black deck and I need life, so I can't take a bunch of damage. And then Blue Farm
Corvald or
was
Crick?
Corvold, yeah,
Okay.
because they add Nas, and
Mm.
then Blue Farm was just like, yeah, I also can't take a bunch of damage. So everybody was kind of scared of me because they didn't know what Balin did too. So I had drawn a lot of ire, and I, of course, I was setting up stacks, so everybody naturally kind of looked at me. And the cat combo was going off, but it didn't close the game. And basically, what happened was everybody was kind of burning their interaction on me or on each other because people were just trying to get combos to get out of the situation. And then I could not find my tutors at all to get my combo. My combo is Rosie, and then the new 2 green lizard that when it gets a 1/1 counter, it makes a token. And basically, that combo is infinite creature tokens that I can sack for colorless. I can tap them for mana, and I can draw. And in worst case scenario, I can tap them, make Balin super giant with trample, and then kill somebody outright. But I mean, with my entire deck in my hand and an infinite mana, like I'm gonna win. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
I just never got there, and unfortunately, playing a deck where I only have a limited amount of counters, just couldn't do much. And then Corvold played Witherbloom and Chain of Smog, which I even told everybody, I was like, he has Chain of Smog in hand if he's trying this. And he passed with Witherbloom out, got back to his turn. Of course, he had Chain of Smog. Nobody could do anything, and he ended up pinging us out. Which, I mean, props to him. He was behind the entire game and finally drew his combo and got it through. And I think that was the game where I was like, Balin is not closing. It's scary, but it's not closing. So maybe this wasn't a good idea.
Um, my round two ended up being kind of terrifying. I'm not even gonna lie, man. Like, I didn't really know what seat one did, but it was Elsha, which is the Jeskai commander, which
Elsha the Infinite, yeah.
it's apparently pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's go with that first. Um,
Was it the person I played in Houston?
it, I don't want to drop any names, but they didn't lose a game.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was the person I played in Houston. Yeah.
Um, so knowing that he didn't lose the game
Yeah.
there, then you know where this is going.
Yep. He
But
thought lashed me to death. So yeah.
so Elsha, and then seat two was Dahada, seat three was Magda, and then seat four was me on Blue Farm. So
Oh, so only blue against everybody that's gonna try to win, basically.
um, it was it was an experience.
Yeah.
The Dahada I had played multiple times, and he was very seasoned at the deck.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Shout outs to him because
Dahada's hard to play.
we'll also laugh about this here, and he'll probably be a little embarrassed if he listens.
Dahada's scary because like your commander can be countered by all counter magic. Like
And Magda was in um, top 16. Like he was there with me.
a good Magda pilot is terrifying. Like
He was scary.
yeah, yeah.
The game was pretty much how you would think it would go. Like though the Dahada and the Magda were really just trying to gun, and me and the Elsha were just trying to stop key pieces and build. Um, I will say turn one, Elsha get probed me, which I was like, oh, I'm seat four, man. Like he looked at it and he was like, okay, okay. And Dahada was like, is there anything you need to be worried about? He was like, he's close, but he doesn't have it. I'm like, it's seat one, or like this is turn one. I'm seat four. Like there's nothing. I'm more scared of your hand. But anyway, uh, I don't remember exactly what turn we were on. We got to a point where Magda started going off, and it was clear that Magda was about to win. Dahada was like, I have a play. I'm going to cast Tainted Pact. Looking for an op agent. Went all the way through, the entire deck and goes, "Oh, I don't have it." I was like, "No, dude."
That's awesome.
So Dahada pretty much killed himself. Like he was done. Magda was like, "Okay, so this on the stack," and Elsha, he's a really good player.
Yeah, yeah,
He was like, "I have something for it, but I won't do it if I'm not going to get a turn because there's no point."
yeah. That's my take on it.
And I was like, "I can show you right now that I do not have it in hand." And he's like, "Okay, well, let me see." And I showed him my hand. He was like, "You're close though." I was like, "I am, but I'd have to draw it."
Hmm.
Like I don't think I have it. And he goes, "As long as you don't win on your turn, I'll do it." And I was like, "Fair, because we're gonna lose here anyway."
Yeah.
And he countered whatever it was for Magda. I had my turn. I draw the card. So I had consultation in hand, and
Hmm.
I draw um, Thassa. And
Oh.
I was like, crap. Like I can't. I'm gonna honor the fact that I said I wouldn't do it. However, I was holding a Final Fortune, so this is where we weren't clear on the politics. I said I. He looked at me as I drew it, and he goes, "You just drew it, didn't you?" And I was like, "I did."
Hmm.
And he was like, just kind of like biting his nails almost metaphorically. And I was like, I did promise that I would pass to you, or that I wouldn't try this turn.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you after here.
I would have Final Fortuned and yeah,
That was my question,
yeah,
was I was going to be like, well, what if I would have Final Fortune? Would you have considered it me not honoring my agreement? And he was like, no, you'd have had, like, if you would have done that, I'd have been like, you got
yeah,
it.
yeah,
But he was like, I do appreciate, because I did pass and he ended up winning.
yeah.
Initially, what I was going to do is try to Final Fortune at the end of his turn, take my turn and win,
Hmm.
because that was the play that I was going to try. Um, However, he was like, "I appreciate you honoring your stuff, but
Those situations are so tough because it's like I've made an agreement and I really should honor it. Is there anything in the tournament rules that say I have to? No, but also I like these people, but also I like winning. And if I can fudge my commitment where it's like I still kept my commitment. However, I did on my second turn that turn win.
yeah."
Like,
Well, in the future, I'm going to be very specific with how I word things.
and I've seen people get salt. I've seen that exact situation happen where somebody Final Fortune passed themselves and won, and everybody was salty and upset.
Well, to be fair, Dahada and Elsha were our friends,
Yeah,
and he was like, "I would have won immediately. Like that's what I would have done. I wouldn't have even told him I'd have won it that turn." And I
yeah,
was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna do that."
yeah.
But
Ooh, that's tough. I at the end of the day, I think my relationship with the tournament people is worth more than a win.
that's where I
Yeah.
was.
Now, if we were playing for $600, that would have been very different. Like,
Yeah, with that, I probably would have looked at him and been like, "I'm sorry, man. Like
yeah,
I'm gonna try."
yeah,
Um, but he knew what was in my hand too. He knew I didn't have it immediately.
yeah.
So, but anyway, that was my round two. It was a pivotal point in my
Yeah.
tournament.
Good to move on to round three.
Yep, you got it.
So let's go back to that Evelyn conversation. So I had a really weird round three. It was really fun. So there was a group of people that they came all together, and it was four people, and all three of them ended up in the same pod with me, and they had also just really went ham on Bloomborough and saw that I had Balin, and they were excited to see my deck. So it was, I always forget her name, Haptra Vizier Poisons. Whenever she deals combat damage, you make a 1/1 snake with Death Touch, and she puts a -1/-1. It's a Golgari black green like control deck, interaction deck. Evelyn seat 2, somebody on Sisse seat 3 that admittedly, they had just kind of started playing Sisse, but they did some things that I was like, I'm learning Sisse as I watch them play. And then I was seat four on Balin. And exactly what you said happened with Evelyn, where turn one, Evelyn went down to five and had World Gorger combo, entombed World Gorger Dragon. We all laid a mana, went to them on turn two, and they went infinite. It was a little bit weird because they had a shock land and they didn't realize that every time it ETBs they have to pay the two. So they couldn't go infinite mana, but they basically paid the life enough to get enough for Evelyn, got out Evelyn, and then with World Gorger and her ET being exiled our entire deck, and then they got a wheel from Sisse and then wheeled us all, and we lost. And we were all on turn one, so it was one of those wins, and they wanted to see the deck, so we were kind of like, okay, so you exile all of our cards, you can cast them. You wheeled us, we lost. We're all on turn one. Cool. The guy that was in seat one, he had a Slaughter Pact, I believe is the name of the card, but he was like, I can cast this and stop it. However, I would lose. And I was like, I really don't want you to do that, man. Like, that's your friend. Don't take a friend's win if you're just gonna lose, and me be one on one with Sisse. Like, don't do that. And they're like, it's my first tournament. Like, I don't know if that's against the rules, if I should do it. And I was like, honestly, man, I just don't like. I would never do that to anybody. And they were like, okay, like, cool. If everybody's cool with it, I was like, honestly, if even if nobody's cool with it, don't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, and we had lost in the first 5 minutes, honestly. So I looked at them and I was like, you guys just want to play for fun. You guys seem cool, and we had a for fun game, and I don't think we got to finish it because Balin did Balin things and locked everybody down, and then just didn't close. So, but I mean, it was really cool to see. Like, same thing as you, is I didn't realize that you could cast Evelyn for only black. So when he had only one, when he had a dual land, I was like, you don't have blue, so how are you gonna get her? And he was like, it's black blue, and I was like, oh, okay, well, shoot, yeah,
Yeah, that's because then you could just have the shock land just come in tapped and
yeah,
not care.
yeah. And then the Shockline came in tap. He ETB'd, got all of our cards, and he went, I could pass and you guys would all just die because you can't draw, but you get an upkeep and I don't want you to, so I'll wheel everybody. And I was like, okay, fair enough. It was cool to see. Anytime I see a deck that can close on turn two or turn one, I'm always just like, my deck doesn't do that. Like, maybe I should play a deck that can do that.
I really want to build that deck. Just curious for me, and I guess if anybody had any questions, how did they how did they stop the loop?
So they had. I mean, with Evelyn, I don't remember. We did have to call a judge over, and I was losing, so I didn't remember. But I think at some point they had a creature that they could kill in their deck. I think maybe it was like Mayhem Devil that they summoned, killed it, and then brought it back instead of World Gorger. I don't remember, but I mean they had everybody's deck,
In hand, yeah.
so they had the choice of like 250 cards to end it. So
That's crazy.
and they could cast it all, with Evelyn. So
On a budget level, it doesn't seem like it's that expensive to make either. So
yeah,
if you're thinking about getting into CEDH and you're wanting to have all the cards, because some people are like that, this deck Evelyn seems to be very budget friendly.
yeah. I normally tell people Yuriko is a good budget commander just because it's two colors and it can win. But I think the format's a little bit too fast for Yuriko now. But having a deck that potentially, if you mulligan and you're just like, all I'm going to do is mulligan for World Gorger Dragon, which is, it seems like what he was doing the entire tournament. And he got, spoiler alert, he got to top four and walked
Yeah,
away with a dual land. And it was literally just him and his friends that they had played casual for a long time, and they just, in my opinion, people start casual and they're like, I want to get better, I want to get better, I want to get better. And some people stop at a certain level, but their entire group was like, no, let's evolve into CDH. And as I understood, it was one of their first big tournaments, and he top four and walked away with a dual land. So it's cool.
It was a very interesting combo to try to deal with.
Hmm.
And like you said, the mana value was probably like two, if
Yeah.
not one.
Yeah.
So turn two, he's doing this World Gorger combo, and you're
Yeah.
just like, yeah.
It was crazy. Like,
Um, what round are we on now?
um
Are we going into round three?
yeah, so that was my round three.
My round three was pretty good as far as I had just lost due to politics. So I was like, I've got to step up.
Yeah.
So this one, I won due to politics. um, it wasn't shady in any way. It was just not full information. Um, Seat one was me. I was Blue Farm. Seat two was an Atraxa. Seat three was a Corvold, and then seat four was Obnixis. So immediately the car or the player that I'm worried about is Atraxa because it has the most counters. It's slow. It's a slow deck though. So I don't I'm never uber scared of Atraxa until we get to turn four. But what ended up happening is Corvald went for it and went deep. It was going. Um, Omnixis was kind of um, being the politic guy. He was like, "What can we do? Do you have anything?" And I was like, I not really for this move here," which wasn't a lie because it was a creature that he was casting. Um, and Atraxa was like, "I've got this," and I was like, "Oh, you got it." And he was like, "Yeah, I've got a silence. I'm gonna silence him." And I was like, "Cool. I could probably back you up. I don't know if I could stop the silence." Um, or not stop the silence, stop the creature. That was my problem. So, uh, we pretty much passed to Atraxa. I was holding a counter in hand, but it was a non-creature counter. It was um, it's not force of will. It's a negation.
Yeah. I was like, well, most counters are not creature. Like,
Um, so being said, he played uh, silence. On top of the silence, Corvald played Final Fortune. He was like, I can't do it this turn. I'll go to my next turn.
mm,
And Obnix was like, what do we do here? He's going to win on his next turn. I was like, well, I have a play. I'm going to try it. And I go, intuition? And he was like, okay, well, you get three counters. I'll pick whichever counter you want. And I was like, I don't really think that's my play here.
yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and we kind of
I'm not burning intuition on three counters that go to the graveyard.
yeah,
Yeah.
no. But we kind of went back and forth a little bit. He wasn't really arguing. He was just trying to kind of see where my mind was.
Yeah.
I was like, to be honest with you, I think if I don't go for mine, it's going to be an issue later. So I'm going to go ahead and just do intuition
Yeah.
line. So I pulled um, Savine's Underworld, um, Lion's Eye. I had Brain Freeze in hand, and he picked Lion's Eye. I think whatever piece he picked, it didn't matter at the time. And we went back to priority on the second turn spell. And he was like, "Well, I've got to pass on it." And I was like, "Well," I looked at Atrax. I was like, "Do you have anything, man?" He was like, and now my silence was it. And I was like, "Okay, well, force of negation, countering it."
Yeah.
And then Obnix was like, "Well, I'll use my deflecting swat that I've revealed on whatever land got sacked."
Yeah.
And I was looking at it and I was like, he's you can't use that. It's going to be ended on his turn, and then it's going to be my turn.
Yeah.
So he realized that as he went into his turn, he was like, "Oh no, the deflecting swat's not going to work on his turn." And I was like, I counted that way beforehand, man. Like I was ready for that. So I went initially. He did some shenanigans, and then I went into my breach line and won. But
Hmm.
it was politicky on the stack. We probably did 20 minutes on that stack.
Yeah. It that's tough because like you've done a similar thing in games with me where it's like you're like, I'm just gonna intuition get my combo, and then I'm like, okay, well, I have counters to stop this guy, but if I'm just gonna counter him and then pass to you, I'm just cool losing now, you know? Because at that point, like, if I interact and I'm gonna lose, I'm just gonna keep my interaction, and it forces the person that tried the intuition to interact. Because I mean, like you were saying, like there are times where you're like, I could stop this, but I'd rather get stuff and I'm holding something, I don't want to use it. But if it's the difference between losing or not, I will use it. So a lot of those times I'm like, well, you've just shut me out. Like I'm not helping anymore. Goodbye.
Yeah,
Like, peace
I'm.
out. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, we've played so much that you kind of know.
Yeah.
I mean, we get to a point where I'll draw cards, and you'll be like, "He just drew this," and I'll be like,
Yeah.
"How the hell do you know that?" But anyway, that was my round three. How did your round four go?
Bad. So I was seat one. So it was me in seat one, Derevi in seat two, the Sauron that you played in seat three, and then a Nadu in seat four. And I never listen to people when they sit down because I've had a lot of people be like, I've never played a CDH game ever. And it's like, I've seen you at two different tournaments. You're a liar. Like, you know? But he was like, I just think Nadu's cool. I like birds and I do not have the cards for it. And that's why I'm in this round. I've lost a lot. And I know Nadu's scary, but I literally just think birds are cool. And I was just like, I'm not going to listen to that. And then we had Derevi sit down. Number one, he was late. Not late enough to where we had to call a judge, but he was late. You know, like he had got to the table 30 seconds late. So we were 5 minutes delayed. And I usually don't throw shade at people, but I didn't like this dude. He was one of those players that wanted to backseat every single decision that everybody did. Like he wanted everybody to play their cards the way he wanted their cards to be played. So like if you played anything that he didn't agree with, he would sit there and argue. And he turn one tried to play Mystic Remora, and somebody I'd played turn one Esper and he played Mystic Remora, and then somebody metal misstepped it. And for 3 rounds he complained about it. Which like I personally wouldn't stop a turn one Esper, turn one seat one Esper, because there's bigger things that I'm afraid of. Which one of those is a Mystic Remora? So I was like, I agree, man. Like Mystic Remora is way too strong. And you know, basically, Nadu wasn't lying. Nadu did nothing the entire game. I think Nadu. I don't even think Nadu summoned his commander the entire game.
Mm.
Balin did Balin things. I'd locked the game down. I had made an attempt to dual caster Twin Flame, and it got shut down. And I had already kind of invested into that line with tutors. I tried to assemble the Rosy Cotton combo, but Sauron ended up wheeling whenever I had most of what I needed in hand. And at that point, it was gone. Like, I don't really run much to recover stuff. I probably should put a Savine's Reclamation in that deck. It didn't, I never put in cards that I expect to lose to use them. You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of a rule that I have where it's like, yeah, I mean, I could put a card in that could help me recover, but also I might not need to recover if the quality of my cards are all good to just try to push a win. And we've been seeing that we've been learning losing on turn one, several times. So it uh, maybe I'll change it, but I think overall Balin is just not closing. And I did something that I'm probably not ever going to do again, but we were all in seat four. I had no wins, no ties. And we were going to time. There was 5 minutes, and I went, hey, uh, I cannot win. Derevi does seem like they're set up to win. We've all been kind of trying to stop them. I could sit here. I could pretend that I have something. I could run out the clock. I could make game actions for 5 minutes. Is anybody against me just passing and giving Derevi a win? Because a tie does not benefit me. And one of the people there, like Derevi, was like, "Yeah, do that." You know?
Oh, of course.
And one of the people went, "Well, I do have. This would be my second tie or third tie. If I win the next round, there is a world where I get to top 16, so I don't want that to happen." And I went, "Okay, cool. I'll respect that. I can do stuff. I don't think it's gonna win, but let's try." And I'd set up a little bit more because I had more stacks that I could play, and I had a ranger captain out, and Derevi kept trying to do things to get me to sack it, and I was like, I know you can't close, so I'm not gonna sack it. Um, so I do things. There's about 2 minutes left. I draw a couple cards with my tokens, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't draw into what I need. Like, I was hoping I would get there with 3 card draws this turn. I didn't. I'm gonna go to combat, do what I can do, and I'm gonna pass. And I don't know why, but Derevi was like, "Well, I'm gonna board upon a win," and I was just like, "In my turn, with like a minute left, okay, like." And we had all been talking, and then like there was a couple of things that went on the stack, and it was clear that if I sacked Ranger Captain, even though he was trying with Born Upon a Wind, it was Born Upon the Wind, a couple things that looked like he was going to win the counter war. So I was like, honestly, man, I'm gonna sack Ranger Captain. I have it. I don't know why. In my end step, you want to prolong my turn so you don't get one. I'm gonna sack it. And he got upset. He was just like, I thought you were gonna let me win. I was like, I'm not. I proposed it to the table, but if I was willing to try to do what I do, pass, and then give you a minute to do your turn, but I'm sacking it. He was like, well, okay. And then started untapping his stuff, and I was like, we're 30 seconds out. Like, you don't get a turn, my dude.
Mm.
And he called over a judge, and the judge like had been kind of eyeing us because like it was kind of clear this guy was like somewhat of a problem. And at the end, he was just like, "Well, I guess nobody can trust you because you said you were going to give me a win and you didn't," and just like picked up all of his stuff and like left. And I was just like, "Okay, like boohoo, sorry, I didn't give you a win." Like, and like normally I kind of just let those things like, because at the end of the day, I'm like, I do have a podcast. Like, I don't want somebody to be like, "Oh, I went against this dude and he made fun of me," or something like
Yeah.
that. But I was like, that was the one time where I was just like, actually, this dude is, I don't like him, so I'm gonna say boohoo. And yeah, it was funny because pretty much everybody he picked up real quick, and everybody was left at the table, and they were like, ugh. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, at least I know I have the support of like everybody else. Like, I don't mean to be messy. It is, but it is nice to know that like everybody else was like, no, that's fine. Like you didn't do anything wrong, and I was like, oh, okay, thank you. But yeah, it was a tie.
My round four. This was probably um, my favorite match of the day. I didn't win, so spoiler. But the people at the pod, it was just a really good pod. I'm not gonna lie. Mine was completely opposite from yours at this point. So how it went was Timna Thrasios, which is a guy that I've played multiple times. He's been in multiple tournaments. He's uh, I've seen him. He goes to a lot of stuff. Good guy. Blue Farm, which was me. Malcolm Timna, which I hadn't seen him before. The seat four was a blue farm player, and I had seen him before. I don't think I remember playing him anywhere, which was like I don't remember any interactions with him. However, the feel of the pod was great. Like we got in, I was the one of the guys, the Tim Thrasios uses like 15 mats,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's his like thing. I don't know why.
Derevi did that too, and I was just like, I don't. Why are you plopping down with 5 mats? Like he was late, and then just goes plop 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 plop. Like,
Well, so Tim Thrasios was like, it's cause so I have the high ground.
yeah,
I was like, well, I'm gonna be cute, maybe win later.
yeah. If you guys like do use multiple mats and there's like a reason, let me know because I've seen it a couple times and like same answer where it's just been them making a joke. I think they like it because like it's a little bit more squishy, so like when they put the cards down, they stay in place better. But honestly, I don't know, and I would like to know. Like,
um, it it ended up being a slog fest. This match just it was I don't know. The other Blue Farm player put out a smothering tithe. He was gaining buku treasures. Thrasios was gaining a crazy board state. I was slowly building pieces. Timna Malcolm was doing Timna Malcolm things. Um, it was very apparent by the middle of the game that we were about to go into a stack of a bunch of counters. Like I was watching the draws. I was watching the scenario. Nobody was really countering anything that was none of it was really consequential to winning. So it was just kind of like and I got to a point where I had 4 counters in hand and I was like I think I can do it. Like if I can get this through, I can win. Um, and again, this match it was a lots of jokes. We had a lot of fun. Like we even brought like the other table was joking with us the whole time.
that's always cool.
It was they the Thrasios Timna player came in a group, so the group was one of the group was on my side at another table, and she was joking with us. I'd played her before in another. I was in the middle of seemingly in the middle of a bunch of
That
friends.
group
This
was
one.
fun. Yeah, I like that group. Like,
Um, so uh, I ended up having win in hand, and I was like, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go. We'll see what happens. And I was trying to bait out Blue Farms counters. I probably should have been more upfront with that to the guy. And then if he wanted to battle, on the stack with me, cool. However, so it was me, and then priority shifted to Timna, and then priority shifted to I'm sorry, there's 2 Timnas.
yeah, I was like,
3
what
Timnas.
Tibda? Yeah.
So priority shifted to Malcolm Timna, and then priority from that would be Blue Farm, and then back to Thrasios Timna. So it was all Timnas. Um, we got into a ludicrous counter war. Like it was going crazy. And I ended up being just 1 mana short of still trying to pull the combo. I started out with uh, tutoring for stuff. So I tried to tutor on the end step of Thrasios. And then on my turn, I tried to silence. Silence got countered.
Yeah.
I was like, cool, counter 1.
Yeah.
So I went to tutor again, and that tutor was countered. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to fight that one.
Yeah.
So I went to play Underworld Breach, and then the counter war started. Like I was like, okay. And
Let's go. Yeah.
Stack went crazy. Malcolm Timna, he was really the contender that was playing it. He probably played 3 of the 5 counters that that stop me. And after my turn, I looked at him, and I could tell that he had overextended his counters. And I was like, well, that's it.
Yeah.
So he did. He went to his turn. He set up a couple of things, and then went to pass. And on the pass, Blue Farm was like, Vamp Tutor, and then the next spell on Blue Farm's turn was Teferi, and I was like, that's it. Like, we've lost. It's over.
Yeah.
Um, he went Breach Line with Teferi as silence, and
Yeah.
that was it. But
Yeah.
it was a joking, good, fun match though.
Yeah. I so that we're going into last round. I forgot. So the way that if you've not been in a tournament before, I probably should have gone over this. The longer you go throughout the day, table one is the people that are winning the most, and you know if you're in last place because you'll be put at the highest table. So round four, I was at table 10, which meant all of us sucked. And I've been it's funny because like multiple times I've been at the worst table, and I've also won. I've had two tournaments where I topped four, and one tournament where I fully won. So it's always weird to be like, guys, I'm good. I'm at the last table though. So like, and that's usually where you have like, the people that are the most like emotionally extended, blah blah blah. But I was seat one at table 10. Had that round go to time. Didn't get a break between because there was a lot of arguing. Seat 10, seat one again, so I didn't have to move.
No.
uh, Sauron from my last round also was seat four, so he just literally scooted his mat over, and it was me and him again, and it was me on Balin, seat one. Haptir, the I'm pronouncing it wrong. Like, don't come after me, please. But the poison vizier with the snakes that I played before and lost turn one and played a fun game with after. And then seat three was Kinnan, which was one of the shop owners that we play at their shop. And then seat four, was Sauron. It was funny because I needed just some mental break from the negativity before, and I looked at the guy that played Kennen, and I was like, "So you're still on Kennen? You haven't gone over to Nadu?" Because I have interacted with this person several times and played them before, so like I'm not gonna say we're friends, but like we know each other. And he was like, "Well, yeah." And I was like, "I'm surprised because like Kennen is like 13% conversion, like he's gone way down." And he's like, "Well, yes, that's true, but if you look at the people that play Kinnan often and you only look at their win rate, Kinnan is actually one of the higher conversions. It's just a lot of people are playing Kinnan and they don't really know how to play him, so it's bringing the conversion rate down." And I just kind of jokingly went, "So, round five, we're at the last table. Where would you put yourself?" And he got a chuckle out of it, and I was like, "Yeah, I've got one, and not saying that I'm doing better. I've got a tie and all losses." And he thought it was funny, and we started playing, and I Balin do Balin things, set up stacks, started making tokens. The Haptir guy, he had kept a bad mulligan, and he was mentally out of it. Like you could tell that he was like, I was not ready for CDH. Like the losing this much is kind of beating me down, and he was playing, but you could tell mentally he just wasn't in it. Kinnan had gotten out a really early consecrated sphinx, and we're all like, "God, what are we gonna do about that?" And I was somewhat set up. I had an oof out. I had stacks, and Sauron is like, "I'm the savior that you guys need, but you're not going to be happy." And I was like, "What?" And the dude slaps down a signed tabernacle, and this dude like was clearly playing like, I'm not going to say budget, but like he was playing Sauron, and like it was clear he didn't have all of the fast mana, but he had most of it. And he slaps down a signed tabernacle, a real one with no inner sleeve. Like that's a $6,000 card, and I was like, oh my god, I thought that was a white land. And he's like, nope, it looks like a white land. It looks like a plains in the art, but it's just a normal land. And they were like, what does that do? And I was just like, oh, tell them what that does. And he was like, oh yeah, so everybody has to pay one per creature they have, or it gets sacked, and you do it on your upkeep. And the guy that was playing the Haptra poison, he had all kinds of 1/1 death touch snakes, and we had made Kinnan, in order for him to get something out, he had pacted and had to pass. So Kinnan had to tap all of his mana out to lose the game, and he lost 3 giant kaijus that he had gotten out, including a consecrated sphinx. And I was like, okay, I can pretty much pay it to keep Balin and Oof up, and I do generate tokens, but like we're here. That doesn't affect me too much. Let's go. And Kinnan has like 30 cards in hand because the guy had one ring, and the game went so long that he was up to 6 counters on his one ring, and we're about to just kill him with damage.
Mm.
And he drew and gave Kinnan 12 cards, knowing that Kinnan would have to tap out and sack all of his creatures. And I was like, guys, we're not out of the woods. Kinnan has 30 cards in hand. Like, and this is not an exaggeration. Like, we asked him to count, and he had 30 cards in hand. And he couldn't close because of stacks, because of tabernacle. Like, it was a weird game. I had tried twice with Balin. I had tried to do dual caster, twin flame again, and then I did get the rosy cotton combo out. But as the green lizard was on the stack, they pathed rosy cotton, and it hurt because I had a red elemental blast. So I was like, I do have protection this time. And then they were like, path rosy, and I was just like, not the right one. I
Mm.
can't do anything about that. So like we had all presented, and all of us got shut down. And it was just that's where we were being at the last pod. It was interesting to see a whole bunch of decks that like technically were CEDH but not able to close, and like see a game like that where it's like, yeah, we all have just junk in our deck that stops everybody else, but otherwise we have trouble closing. So that current version of Balin, as much fun as I had with it, going, I lost 4 rounds and tied 3 rounds over 2 events with Balin, so didn't get a win with Balin at all. So I was like, I'm gonna retire Balin. It will be my fun play around deck whenever we do like just for fun games. But I was like, I need to move back to Itali or build Nadu, and I did build Nadu, and
I
I am playing Itali. So
I think that it was the wrong choice. I think going back. No.
but overall, not to even try to slide away from this. I went to 3 events and I won 0 games, and including with my good deck Itali at the first one. It was 3, 6, in 11 rounds. I won 0 games, so I'm not trying to like slide away from that. Like I was real bad this month. But the reason that I like to do these podcasts is I saw a comedian on Twitter who usually wins a bunch. And I'd always been like, man, I don't win as much as these other people that are good. That kind of disheartening. Like, not that I'm going to get out of CDH, but like maybe I'm just not good. And then I saw them lose. And they kind of were like going through why they lost. And they were like, yeah, this, and happened. It made me feel a lot better because I was like, oh, even people that are like, with math and stats clearly number one in the format, like even they get some bad rounds. And I had 3 in a row, so but I also was just kind of messing around with Balin, and my mental state was not in the best place because I was sick, not making excuses, but I thought it was fun. I did have fun with Balin. I will not be playing it in the near future anymore.
So back to me.
Yeah, back to you. Overall, I
Ba-
suck. Back to you.
Back to me. I played 3 different tournaments, top 16 and all.
No, you didn't.
I did.
Oh,
I did.
yeah.
I did.
Well, I mean, top 16 and 26 is not. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I top
out
16.
of out of the three, you know,
I top 16 in the Gusher Crushers.
yeah. So anyway, my last two rounds, because one of them is the round five, and then it was top 16, are gonna be kind of fast. Um, so round five was Nadu. It was another Blue Farm player in seat two. And then the seat three, I don't know the name of it, but it's the Eminence Grixis Commander.
Inala.
I thought it was cool.
Yeah, Inala's cool.
Um, and then me, seat four, Blue Farm. I was like, oh man, this is going to be rough. um, round one, or turn one, Nadu does random setup stuff, reveals whatever that zero cost, not Lightning Greaves, but the other one,
Shuko.
Chuko.
Yeah, so it runs Shuko, Lightning Greaves, and Umbral Mantle.
Blue Farm goes, oh no. I was like, yeah, I don't really know all of the lines in Nadu, but this is.
Yeah, usually if you look at a YouTube thumbnail on how to play
It's
Nadu,
there.
it's Shuko and Nadu. Like,
Well, he goes, okay. Going into Blue Farm's turn, he drops a Draenith Magistrate. And I'm like, up, that I'm stuck. And I look over to the Eminence Commander, and he's just smiling. He's like, I don't need mine at all. Um, goes to the Eminence guy. He gets his stuff set up. Goes to me. I draw a counter spell. I'm like, okay, I'll just hold up mana and wait. Um, second turn, Nadu does more setup. Blue Farm. I've played this Blue Farm player quite a few times. He's slightly aggressive. Um, it can go either way. He can be a really decent player to play with, or he can be kind of iffy with it.
yeah, Blue Farm's always interesting because I see people that they just jam it and they're clearly. I'm not gonna say that they're not the best Blue Farm players, but Blue Farm is definitely a consistent with protection try to win deck in my opinion. And I've seen people that just jam it, and I'm just like, yeah, you slip in some wins sometimes, but if you're not slipping in a win more than 25%, don't do that. Like,
I meant more on politics.
oh, okay,
His
yeah, yeah,
play style is great. Like
okay,
I've seen
okay,
him play, and he's good.
yeah, yeah,
Like he's got the wins, he's got the top 16s. I know he does.
yeah, yeah,
The only issue here is that he wasn't in the best position, and he was trying to police the table, and he kept looking at me to try to help him, and I was like, man, I'm seat
yeah.
four.
I'm not helping
My
you.
commander's gone. I have nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, which not necessarily true because that counter saved the game.
yeah, yeah.
And then I use my counter to stop whatever I was doing. It goes to my turn. I draw a ranger captain. And I'm like, this is where we're at. Played ranger captain. I did some other stuff, can't remember exactly. Passed to Nadu. Nadu plays a duplicate, copies ranger captain.
Yeah.
And then Blue Farm looked around and he was like, well, played another one and copied the ranger captain.
So I'm hearing a tie, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. That's where we went. Like it ended up being a tie. The Blue Farm player actually, with the tie, had enough points to get into top 16 and was
Yeah.
in my last pod. So he is the other Blue Farm player in that pod.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was not great for him, which
Yeah.
we'll go into that one. That one's even faster than this one. So goes around, keeps going. We all tie. It was over. I get into top 16. Well, I take a step out. I take a phone call. I come back, and they were already set and ready to play. And I was like, I mean, we were supposed to take like a 20-minute break.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I was like, well, I'm okay with it. We'll just get in and start.
Yeah.
Top 16 for me was Sisse number 1, Blue Farm number 2, which is not me, Magda Number three, same Magda,
Yeah.
played last time. And then I was seat four, Blue Farm. Uh, I have now played all of these guys multiple times. The Sisse player, not at this tournament, but at many tournaments prior.
I'm gonna be honest. I was so mentally out of it that day. I forgot you made top 16, and I waited around for you to play top 16. I thought we were done. I was like, all right, so let's go into summary.
It's it didn't last long. I mean, turn one in top 16, Sisse drops Ashiok, which absolutely shuts off.
Yeah. No tutors for anybody.
No
Yeah.
searching at all.
Is it
So
just opponents?
yeah,
Yeah,
except for
yeah,
him.
yeah.
So he plays Ashiok, passes. Blue Farm gets the biggest devastating look on his face and plays a flooded strand and is just like, I can't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
Magda sets up Magda things,
Yeah.
is going. And the next turn or two was Magda trying to counter or to kill Ashiok so he could win.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, nah, I can't do that. I have to counter it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It's always weird to be like, I have to protect this other person's piece that that hurts me.
I was set in a position to where I didn't really need the tutors. I could just draw. I had some draw engines on board. I was going to try to go that route because Magda was going to let me draw. Um, being said, I shut down multiple things for Sisse. Sisse played an early smothering tithe. I bounced it to hand.
The person that I went against turn two. That's what they do apparently. But I mean, it
You
worked for him.
you need it
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
need the mana. And then Blue Farm was just locked out constantly. Magda was still trying to set up. My turn, I was just trying to draw as many cards. Uh, what ended up happening is Magda was about to win. Like it had a spell. Sisse looked at me and I was like, man, I'm done. Like that, I
Yeah.
can't counter anything else.
Yeah.
And um, Blue Farm, he was like, I can pact.
Ooh, yeah.
I can pact and I can pay for it if you kill the Ashiok on my turn.
Yeah.
And him and Sisse made the deal, did it. Now he was not as honorable.
Yeah.
However, rounds go back through. Sisse ends up tutoring, starts Sisse things. I think he did pass so that he could do it and then countered whatever he was going to. I don't remember exactly, but he had already won when it
Yeah.
happened.
So he wanted him to like -1 Ashiok to pact or
I don't remember exactly how he got rid of Ashiok,
yeah.
but
Usually it's like you because that's a commander that or not a commander, planeswalker that only has a negative ability. So
yeah,
yeah.
it's a -1. He
Yeah.
did something to kill it. I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly what it was. However, it went to Blue Farm's turn, and he really couldn't do anything anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Sisse won on his like upkeep or something.
Yeah.
But
As Sisse do with no casting, no counters.
yeah, no cast, no counters, no nothing.
It's always so scary to have a handful of counters and be like, but it's Sisse's turn, so like
So that was my last round. It was pretty miserable. Honestly,
mm-hmm.
that was my worst game, mainly because it was shut down so early and it was clear that Sisse was going to be the winner
Mm-hmm.
if something didn't change quickly. And the only player I could rely on was Magda, which
Which is mono red, just I win. Yeah.
would have won as soon as Ashiok was dead.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was out of it. I completely forgot you went to top 16 because I remember I was like, I'm really hungry. I don't want to eat right now because we have a restaurant we always go to that's fantastic. but
yeah,
I was mentally just checked out. I
I
think
was
we ate and then we hit the hotel and I just literally passed out like as
I,
soon as the stuff was put up.
I know I passed
Yeah,
out.
you
I
did.
was done.
Yeah.
I was probably snoring. It
Yeah.
was a lot.
No, I looked over and I'd said something. I heard like he started to like snore, and I was just like, hell yeah. Just was like lights off, turnover.
But that was my games. Tournaments are always fun. I had a lot of fun this whole month. Um,
I would do it every month if I could.
I
Like,
was gonna notate to everybody listening that you did say that you were just gonna have fun throughout the tournaments.
yeah, yeah.
I think the only one that you played, Atali, was the first one,
Yeah, and I
and
lost every round then, but yeah.
and I mean Atali is scary, is what ends up happening.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even when we play locally, like, it's really hard for me to be like, this table needs an Atali trigger. And like I won't be lying. Like it's like you guys cannot burn counters on me right now. Like please let me go through. It could be a whiff. And they're like, nah, it's too scary. I gotta burn a silence or a force of will. And I'm like, do not burn a force of will on me. Yeah, but yeah, I like to play for fun. I just wanted the experience this month. Winning is more fun than losing, so I think I will probably. I like to have a lot of experience with different decks, and tournament experience is good. And it's also good for me to remind myself like I'll start doing like really spicy brews, and then I'm like, oh, okay, like as cool as Balin is, it doesn't close, and like there's certain things a CDH deck needs to do, and one of the most important things is close. And Balin, while it does have several creature combo closes, it's not consistent. There's, in my mind, several things that a deck needs to do, but for a CDH deck, you need to be able to win early, you need to be consistent, and you need to be able to close. And I thought Balin could do it, and it couldn't. I still had a lot of fun. Next couple tournaments, I'm probably gonna play for serious. I don't know if it'll be Nadu or Tali, but
I imagine you'll probably not do it.
I'll probably try Nadu just for the experience. The way I look at these is, yeah, I'm not winning, but I'm getting experience and I'm growing as a player playing all these different decks. And I mean, not to brag, I do have a top four and a full tournament win, so I can always back up to that. Be like, well, I lost 3 tournaments in a row with no wins. However, I've won before, so like mentally, I feel okay with all those losses.
I
Like,
was just giving you some help.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I topped 16 with a bye at one of them.
I need to
However,
be more consistent. And being more consistent is playing the same deck over and over. I need to pick it. That's one of my not great attributes as a player is I like to jump around, and I'm good at all, master of none. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely. I mean, we have a lot of fun with the people we play, and sometimes, unfortunately, the time we play with a lot of them is at tournaments.
Hmm.
So, like I said, my favorite game out of all of them was literally just us kind of joking around,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
it was fun.
Overall, what was kind of your personal takeaway from the full month of tournaments? And then I'll do my full month takeaway, and I think we can end it there.
I would say going into the first one, I had an older mindset of Blue Farm.
Hmm.
It's really interesting that the format is so fluent and moving so much
Yeah.
that it really only takes a set or two for things to really adjust in a way that is changes how decks get played.
And it's crazy too because like Modern Horizons 3 came out, we're just starting to see people kind of unlock the value there. So like it's always weird how stuff comes out and there's no impact, and I'll be like, well, there's little impact, and I'll be like, ah, okay, that's not a big deal. And then like people will learn hive mind wise, and 6 months down the road, I'm like, oh, okay, Nadu is a crazy deck. You know, like,
Yeah, and then making the adjustments, and then seeing over the next two tournaments the play. I would say, and I would state here that the format is faster right now,
mm-hmm.
and which will it stay there? I don't know, but I do think that as the format is right now today, you're looking to win turn 3 or 4 at
Yeah,
most. Really 2 to 3.
that not to spoil, but that was going to be my takeaway was you cannot. I'm not gonna say you can't. You don't really want to set yourself up for failure by playing a deck that can't win in the first 3 turns. Like, you want to always have that ability to somewhat win the game turn 2, possibly 3, because a lot of the times that's all you're going to get. If you're playing blue, you can kind of justify being a little slower. I think that's why Nadu kind of works. But other than that, I really don't. I don't think you can look at a deck and go, "Well, it runs enough stacks that we might get to turn 4 or 5." Because really, if you're running stacks, you're probably just gonna tie. There's certain decks like Rocco, I will say, is a great deck where it's like you can stacks out, and then all you need is Rocco for 7, and then you can kind of win off that. But there's very few decks that do that, and in my opinion, combo decks are usually what do that. And if you draw your combo piece, you're just like, oh, this is a loss. It's good, but it's not consistent.
I agree with that. I would also say if your deck that you've been playing isn't currently in the meta as fast enough in the meta, keep it on the back burner because it
Yeah, yeah,
really only takes a card or two. And I think Kennen is a was a good deck to kind of compare this to, where if everybody is running, you know, certain cards, Kennen is pretty much shut down.
yeah, yeah.
And then if you don't, then Kennen rises through the ranks. The only problem now is to avoid that problem, you play Nadu. So
Yeah, I mean, I think Kennen is a good example of where the meta's gone, because Kennen usually it's just like, okay, well, if people aren't running Grafdigger's Cage, Kennen just takes it away. And now it's like, yeah, Kennen's good, but Kennen doesn't close easily. And because Kennen doesn't close easily, it's not winning as much. Like, it's still a competitor, but it's not winning tournaments and getting top 16 as much. So, like, I think Kennen is a good example of, I mean, Tivit too, of these decks were scary. And now when they sit down at the table, usually I'm just like, oh, this person hasn't played in a year. This will be easy.
yeah, I I think that's my biggest takeaway. I do think that if you're listening and thinking about going to a tournament, um,
Go.
go
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Get your deck, the one that you think is going to do the best, and go and try it out.
Hmm.
There's usually not any saltiness in my experience.
If you start losing, I do think that loss after loss after loss going into those lower pods, people tend to get saltier. But I've never really had anybody just be like, "Why are you playing that deck? Like, that deck sucks. Like, what's going on?" Usually it's like them scrutinizing your decisions. So like, even that, like, at the saltiest people get, I don't think anybody will ever just be like, "You're a terrible deck builder," you know.
Yeah, no. I
And if
mean,
and if they do, they're terrible people.
I think those are, in my experience, few and far between. It's build the best deck you think you can do, and
Hmm.
then see how it runs.
And people like seeing off meta decks. Like, I've had a lot of people see the things that I'm playing, and they're like, I can't wait to see that go off, or like, I don't know what you're gonna do. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe that's a card I had on my radar,
Hmm.
and then I'm like, well, you actually built it. What did you do?
Yeah, I'm met with a lot of positivity whenever I go off meta. So I mean, and like, even if it doesn't work out, at least I started the event with a lot of positivity. Really, these shops need our support, even if it seems like kind of a big shop. Um, you know, it if you think that you're gonna go and you're gonna have fun losing, never look at an event and go, "There's no way I can win it. I'm just not gonna enter." Like, if I would have done that, I wouldn't have gone to 3 events this month. I would have gone to one. There were a couple times where I just either, mentally or physically wasn't up for a tournament, but I still wanted to go and have fun and play. Like, if you look at it as, usually it's about $40 for like 11 to 7, like 8 hours of fun. Like, it's for the money that you pay. It's a lot of entertainment, a lot of good way to meet people. I love it. Like, even if I'm losing every single round, like I did all month, I still had a lot of fun. Enough fun to make a podcast about it. So,
It it's an experience, and I think that if you're just curious, try it out and see. And then if you don't like it after that, then by all means, do what you do. I have a lot of fun with it. And again, I don't win every tournament I go to. I top 16 in a lot, but actual wins, I may have won one or two. I'm
And
not
I
sure.
don't win at all at a lot of tournaments I go to. Yeah, so that was our tournament podcast. This is the first one that we're doing. I mean, I don't know if we'll have a full month of tournaments again, but if you guys really liked hearing our breakdown of our experience, let us know. If you didn't and you're like, I would rather have more informative topics, let us know. Like good or bad feedback is good. Helps us out and it helps us make the podcast. I mean, if you've listened to almost 2 hours and 45 minutes of a podcast, you have the right to leave feedback. So if
Oh,
you
for
don't
sure.
like it, like please tell us. And if you were like, it was great hearing how you lost, it made me feel better about myself, like then leave that in the comments too.
And if
Like
you're like, man, you know what, Ghost, you're gonna get to that win. You'll do it.
yeah, that win that cardboard cryptid has gotten twice almost. Once for sure, twice, but yeah, it feels good, I will say.
Oh my
It's a
god.
nice. I would feel very empty if I've never gotten that experience.
I mean, I couldn't imagine playing 11 games.
Yeah, I mean the $600 that I won from the one, it kind of makes me feel bad. Like whenever I feel like I'm losing a lot, I just open up my bank account. I'm like, oh, there's $600 more than there should be.
No, it's a fun time, man. And I really, win or lose, you do have a good time, and
Yeah,
you'll meet a lot of good people. And really, realistically, meeting those people and playing them more is only going to grow you as a player. To be
yeah, making
honest,
those connections. I mean, you could go to an event and make a connection with somebody that's an hour away. That's just like we'll meet in the middle and play. Like
I mean, pretty much what we've done all over Texas, honestly.
I mean, we have people that are 6 hours away that we play with regularly, and we can go 2 hours away to another town, and people jump into, and they're like, "Oh, hey, you guys are here. Like, do
Yeah,
you want to
it's
play?"
been a
And we're
while,
like, "Yeah." Like,
but anyway, enjoy y'all's time. Hopefully, we get some more stuff going on. There is Magic Con coming up, and
hmm
there is a few tournaments actually that are kind of big.
October looks like another really big month, so that's why we're kind of asking for feedback. If you like this, cool. You might see it again in October. You'll definitely see us talking about MagicCon, and we'll be there. And if you're going to be there, let us know, and maybe we can meet up and play some CDH games.
For sure. Have a good one.
All right, see ya. Bye.